Before you skip ahead or continue, check the timestamps, check the playlist for specific floor sets, check out my merch store for Deep Dungeon related apparel. Cue the intro. Hello, I'm Angelus Demonus with a Dawntrail live tutorial guide for Palace of the Dead solo on Pictomancer if your goal is to get the Necromancer title. This live tutorial guide will cover floors 101 to 140. I will be giving more care and attention to all enemies from this point forward. You'll see aggro types for every enemy, and special to Pictomancer and casters alike is a note on what you can and cannot sleep. Knowing what is sleepable is extremely important for strategies I call sleep tech, and in the event of a bad multi-pull or even a luring trap. I also did my best to show you, the viewers, what enemies can and cannot sleep in real time as an added demonstration. A new addition I'd like to mention that was not present when this guide was recorded. As of around the 7.1 patch, if you reach floor 101 for the first time, you will obtain the Lonely Explorer title immediately. I highly suggest gandering at the timestamps in the description below if you wish to look for specific tips that may help you or floors you might be stuck on. If you are looking for the other floor sets, be sure to check the playlist on the upper right card or in the description below for the link. If you have any questions on anything that goes on with this run, things I may not have covered, or if you are confused on anything, be sure to leave them in the comments below and I will try to respond as soon as I can. No single question is silly, and every single experience is unique. Be sure to keep me posted on how your own runs are going. Good luck, have fun, and I hope this guide helps you. Welcome to 101 to 110. You made it through the story floors, and now you're walking into the harder floors. One thing to note, you cannot get to these floors if you see a KO on this file. Actually, the file would just stop at 100 and be like, you can't proceed. So you have to make sure that up to this point you haven't died, which I hope, using the guide, that you've made it up here without too much of an issue. Couple things to note so far. Our armor is not at 99.99. We started this file at floor 1 at about 58.52, something like that. We got quite a lot of armor upgrades in 91 plus to 91 to 100, and what you'll experience starting now, a couple changes from the first 100 floors. Your armor, if you get to a silver chest, it is going to guarantee upgrade, guaranteed, unless it explodes or unless you're capped. That's not something you'll experience on 1 to 100 where there is a little bit of a capping situation there, but here it's guaranteed. So you're going to start to see our armor really climbing, assuming there's a lot of silver chests. And number 2, the biggest thing that's important is that the potsherds starting now will be a lot higher of a rate. I believe DD Compendium puts it at about a 30 to 40% drop rate of the potsherds if you get to a bronze chest. It's the only way you're getting potsherds. So if you have been limited on your sustaining potions, which we started with 20 and we are currently at 30, I used one potsherd and we got one potsherd from 100, so I only have one potsherd in my inventory. And maybe as the run goes along, you'll start to see like how much we actually end up per 10 floors. So this is the weird part about Palace of the Dead. There isn't a farming floor like Eureka Orthos or Heaven on High where you can go into 21 to 30 and always get a potsherd. It's not, there's no floor that you can just repeat over and over and over. But it's kind of because you have such a long time before you get to harder things that you can farm them on really from 101 to really like 140, and you'll see by the time you start getting to harder things, it's like, okay, the potsherd stock is actually not bad. And that's one reason why I wanted to start at a very low number, to kind of showcase that it is very possible to get through and to manage even with the lowered number. So that's what we're starting up with over here. Lastly, as we go through the floor, I will be trying my best to be pulling everything and explaining everything at least once. In addition to the Pictomancer run in particular, Pictomancer has the ability to sleep. All the casters have the ability to sleep. So one thing that we will try to do is showcase if the enemy can sleep or not for your future knowledge, which would be really good if you hit a luring trap and whatever other reason. We actually have something we like to call sleep tech, where if you sleep something and then you move about two rooms away from it, you'll be able to de-aggro them. And maybe we'll showcase that like right away on the run just so you can see it, and maybe try to show that on the different floors just so you can see that in action. But that'll be kind of one of the special things you'll experience with Pictomancer. But along with that, you'll also see Pictomancer kind of rip apart enemies because our burst is ridiculous. So anyway, let's hop on in to 101 plus. Hop on, let's do it. And yes, Aria, thank you for saying that, because it's like, it was in my mind as I was going through this explanation. Every boss that you kill climbing up, 110, 120, will give a +1/+1 arm and armor, which is what you got from killing the 100 and the 50 boss, and that's really good in terms of trying to get your arm and armor climbed up. So, all right, I will not open with a strength here. Oh, I will open with a strength here. All right, Yarzon. Yarzon is sound, but these ones can be a little spicy if you're dealing with multiple enemies, because this one gives you a vulnerability down for 20 seconds, so it may not hit you hard, but something else hitting you with that thing can hit you really hard. Let's open with a sleep here. It is not sleepable, so you cannot sleep that. Again, it is sound aggro. There's that vulnerability up, well, vulnerability up. We're going to pull the Doblyn, which only does a point-blank AoE. It is sight aggro. Opening with sleep here to check on the sleep. It is not sleepable as well. I didn't set up my motifs, but that's okay. We'll set it up now. Bronze chest here. Prove my point. Thank you, game. We already have more ponchers than I had from 1 to 100. Almost. The Palace Ziz is a patrol sight aggro. Opening with sleep here to check on the sleep. It is not sleepable. This thing is kind of weird after it does its conal. It actually stays in its place for a while. It's like it's almost in like this really crazy animation lock. So these are actually really cool to fight, just simply because they just don't really kill you. But something to know on that one. Again, try to get to all the chests right now, especially if you're low arm and armor. If you're low sustaining potion, you will want to take the time to get to as many chests as possible. May also want to consider doing an affluence and keeping it at 2 so you can boost the amount of chests showing up on the next floor. Sprites here are sound. I'm actually going to showcase to you 2 birds with 1 stone. These are both sound, and what sound means is that if you RP walk, you can see the little man up in the upper right corner indicating that you are actually walking. If you walk through them, they will not aggro because they are sound aggro. You can step in front of them, you can do everything, they won't aggro. Gonna open with the Sprite here, but I'm actually gonna pull him out first. It is a caster. Gonna now sleep him to check for the sleep. It is not sleepable. And now we go kill the Sprite. Again, we're doing the sleep just to check for sleeping. It's probably going to be a little bit of a niche situation whether or not you're going to utilize sleep. Usually I like to kind of pop that as an emergency thing if I hit a luring trap, or if you kind of get an aggro that I had no intentions of getting. But, you know, it would be nice in your repertoire to know what can be slept in case things happen. Pulling the Doblyn just because it pulled me instead. Gonna actually be careful with my beam. I don't want to angle it into the room, since it will cause a lot of issues if I kind of do that. I'm gonna ignore that treasure room at the moment. There's a lot of slight enemies there, but I also don't quite need anything in there. We should be out very soon. One thing you'll definitely notice with my pulls is that I will try to not overuse my abilities. Oh, that's a nice raising. I will try not to overkill with my muses and rely on my GCDs and my paint to kill an enemy. Something to be good, especially when you're getting your pulls in order. And it kind of helps distribute the time, the speed in which you're trying to kill things and move along the floors. That might be a good habit to form when you're trying to kill things and go through. Now, there is a bronze chest here, and these are both sound, so I'm actually going to go over to get the bronze chest. Going to disengage just because I smack the Sprite by accident. We got the Doblyn, but that's okay. I'm going to shield here just in case. Popping this. Max potion. Moving out here. Gonna stay walking because of the aggro that I could get. Again, this is sound. That's perfectly fine. I may start popping a potion here, but I'm gonna make sure I don't get the Sprite here. Okay, good. Gonna kill this. There is a patrol floating around, I think. Angling the beam so I don't hit the thing in the treasure room. Perfectly fine there. Popped a max potion, not a sustaining potion. Off into the next floor. Here, I'll be a little less concerned about traps along the wall. There'll still be some notable areas that I may hit a trap along the wall, but this is like a layout and a type of floor design that I'm not as concerned, unlike the next set. Here we have a rage, and so what I'm gonna do is we're going to sight big room. and we'll go into Fortune. Now, one thing that's nice about the Rage in this particular situation, in terms of navigation, going away from the exit is actually really good on a Rage, because let's say I have the Fortune up, which I do, and we start getting chests from random enemies. Now it's like I go away from the exit, I check everything, and as I circle back, I'm like checking things on the way. What would really be crappy in terms of movement and maybe saving time of map navigation is actually starting going into the exit. Like, let's say we started in that north room all the way in the top by the 102 number. Now, if I started there and went to the exit, if any chests were to drop, I would have to walk all the way back up and then all the way back down to check all these chests, and that's a lot of movement, you know? So in this case, you know, sometimes if you're popping a rage with the Fortune, you may want to plan out your actual pathing to try to see if you can travel the least amount of steps. Because look, you're on a timer, you don't want to be wasting time, you know? Here, these are all sound. I'm going to be careful because I might aggro multiple. At least I got that one kill. I'm going to ignore that Yarzon. I'm going to see if I can sneak over to the west room because of that silver chest. We'll see. Serenity, don't quite need it, but I would like the silver chest. 74. As mentioned, we are going to get upgrades guaranteed starting now, unless the chest explodes or if I'm capped. So there's a massive benefit to me getting to the silver chest, but more importantly, I would like to see more bronze chests for some potsherds, since, as mentioned at the beginning of the run, you're gonna see a potsherd from like about 30 to 40% chance, and that's a lot. That's a big amount. That's a big amount. I'm gonna be pulling this Doblyn because it is sight, but the Sprite and the Yarzon are sound, and I can get past them no problem. And I wouldn't want to aggro the Doblyn while I'm getting over to that silver chest, because then I have to keep it on me or try to hit it, and a lot of the damage from Pictomancer is AoE, so that could get a little annoying when not hitting the Sprite or Yarzon. Getting the silver chest here. And it explodes. Now, interesting little note here. Enemies do not aggro you unless they are above 75%. Look at this. No aggro. Look, they don't care. 69.9, 69.9 here. It's gonna get to 79.9. And it starts to aggro. Little deep dungeon mechanic there. Really, that's a game mechanic, but it is something to note. So in this little small situation, because I hit those enemies, now I'm kind of free. I can walk past them no matter what aggro they are. Now, tiny note thing, not that you'll ever run into it in Palace, but if you had a mimic, like a mimic altered room, and then you managed to explode it and it didn't aggro, the mimics actually do not abide by that low HP rule. Something that we found out in Eureka Orthos, where even if you do like a Protomander of Storms, which dips everything to 1 HP, the mimics don't care about that low HP, no aggro rule, so... But everything else will adhere to that. Now, I guess maybe a special case is the special enemies, but I think those would probably follow the same rule. It's like gonna be extremely rare for me to find a situation where I hit the silver chest and then they're actually there and all that stuff. Okay, going into the next floor. Okay, into 103, debuffs have been pretty calm, got the resolution back. Like I said, we only needed really one going into 140, although we would like to have the resolutions in the next 90 floors for 101. Pulling this one just to get it out of the way. Again, it's sight. I would definitely recommend the sight enemies and the proximity enemies being high priority, but the sight enemies also being a high priority since, you know, unless you can walk around them, they might block you, whereas the sound enemies, those guys you can just walk right past. First case of a Goblin Adventurer. This one is a patrol, and it is sight. We're gonna pull it, checking for sleep. Survey says it is sleepable. Well, you're sleepable. So there's your answer on the Goblin Adventurer. They open with a tripled attack, Goblin Rush right there. That's kind of all they do. So it will be a little intense. I was mentioning how if you were dealing with the Yarzon, you had that vulnerability up. If you deal with that, then you're taking additional damage on that one. Here we're gonna pull a first case of our Deep Palace Stag. Stags are sight. holding, waiting for my Muse here. They only do auto attacks. They will kick you with a back hoof if you go behind them. Actually, maybe this is a really good case. I'm gonna shield here. Hit him. Oh, this one doesn't do it. Okay, the other ones in Heaven on High do it. They will just basically do auto attacks, slight aggro. Pretty tame overall. Okay. Alright, let's continue. We pulled everything up until this point, so we will now proceed as normal. And you found out some enemies that do sleep. Now, here's actually one thing I think I can showcase now. Can I do that? Let me clear this floor. Hold on. I want to showcase our little sleep tech. I may try to do that maybe as often as possible to showcase it to you. If I can do it on every floor set, then I would love to do it. Let's kill these Doblins so it would make a little bit more of a clear pathing here. What I mean by this sleep tech, which I'll explain again when we do it, I call it sleep tech. If you sleep something, and then you move at least 2 rooms away from it, you can de-aggro. It is very kind of specific to sleep, because sleep is 30 seconds, where a lot of other crowd control doesn't last that long. It doesn't give you enough time to actually get that distance. But 30-second sleep means, yeah, you're going to probably get that distance. So we're going to utilize the Goblin Adventurer for this when he comes back. Let me actually make sure that the room is clear on the other end first while he walks himself back over here. Okay, Yarzon, Doblyn, that's kind of clear over here, so that's good. Okay, let me get this chest and then walk back to that room. Mimic! Okay, we gotta be careful here, because we do want to blow this up. If we get any Pox situation, I'll explain what my Pox strat is going to be. Hopefully we can kill it in time, which is getting a little iffy here. And we did it in time, good. Okay, well, we don't have to talk about my Pox strategy yet. I'll talk about it once we have to deal with it. I don't want to talk about it until that point. I was really hoping that Goblin Adventure was going to walk back here, but apparently he's having some dinner on that other areas. Okay, so let's pull the Goblin Adventure. I'm going to open with a shield as well, because he's probably going to break it with his Goblin Rush. So the key thing here is 2 tiles, 2 rooms, is what you want to do this sleep tech. This is going to be good if you have accidental aggro. This is going to be good if you have a potential luring trap. And again, it's kind of an emergency play. So I'm gonna sleep this Goblin Adventurer since we just found out that it sleeps. Alright, let's say, oh my god, bad aggro, I don't want to fight this thing. Or maybe you actually run into a situation where you just literally don't want to fight it. Note that it was in that room on the far west side. So this is one full room over. Now I'm gonna keep moving over here. Now we are about 2 rooms. See, it went yellow, de-aggroed. It is gone. It is no longer in our aggro list, and I can proceed as normal. So that is our sleep tech that we like to call it, that I like to call it. Extremely useful, something that only really casters can do, because they have sleep. Healers can pull that out as well. Something that Machinist and Warrior can't do. So if you're kind of looking for, you know, reasonings as to what Pictomancer is given to you, a special thing that it's giving to you, this is one of those special things. Now, you can argue, you know, is there any other job that can do this kind of sleep tech other than the sleepers? Technically, Ninja can, because their bind, probably I don't know if anyone really uses bind. I mean, that's a button that I think now you use it for, like, your big damage button. But the bind is actually 15 seconds, and with a combination of Sakuchi and movement speed, you could get that distance with Ninja. But anyway, that's a Ninja run. But let's continue pulling here. Thinking about that strength, which I probably will use to keep it at 2, I think it is going to be a really good recommendation, in my opinion, to keep strength at 2 for Pictomancer, provided that you're going around and killing everything, because that is Pictomancer's massive strength. You kill things really fast with the strength on, with the burst, you're going to get really far. First instance of a Squirrel. So the Squirrels here are going to be a little deadly. You do want to kill them as fast as possible. Checking the sleep here, it does sleep. What it does is it does a move called Scamper. And Scamper gives it haste. And when it's hasted, it hits you faster. With the lower defense of a caster, if you keep this thing alive too long, that damage is going to catch up, especially if you're becoming very conservative with your sustaining potions like we are now. Or in combination with something like the Yarzon, which gives you the vulnerability up, and taking all that damage at a much faster pace, you're going to be surprised how fast that Squirrel can kill you, especially on a caster defense. So just bear in mind that if you do pull a Squirrel, really line up a burst, do not keep it alive that long. Maybe a shielding is going to be there. Holy... Holy bars. Okay, going through. That affluence is there again. I'm going to use it again because, again, we're looking for silver chests and we're looking for bronze chests. We haven't quite gotten too much, but we already picked up one singular potsherd on this run, which is already more than 50 floors than the first 50 of Palace of the Dead. So I was talking about that earlier, how stepping into 101 and the floors moving forward, you're going to see the potsherds becoming a much more frequent thing you'll see, provided you see bronze chests, and we already had our first example on the very first floor. Squirrel's mostly dead, so we're good in that department. Doblyn coming up here, pulling it. Watching my beam, gonna say that every time I use this button, make sure you have that angle of the beam in a favorable position, unless you do want to splash on the thing in front of you, but especially on the higher floors, it's probably something you want to start forming now to make sure that you don't accidentally hit something that you had no intentions of hitting. Using that flight to reduce the amount of kills you need by half, that is what a flight does. Definition decreases the number of enemies on the next floor. Actual definition, if you needed 6 kills on a floor to get off, now you need 3. If you need 8 kills, now you need 4. If you need 9 kills, you need 5, so on and so forth. It cuts it, slashes it by half. It also reduces the amount of enemies that you can see per room. You know, sometimes you see like 3, 4, you'll probably see like 1 or 2. But we do know, statistically speaking, that there is an increased chance of a treasure room by roughly about 3 to 6%-ish, mostly about 3%. So if you actually tend to see treasure rooms, after you use the flight, it's not you, it's literally a mechanic that they kind of added in. Small chance, you know, we're not talking significant guaranteed chances, but it is totally a thing. 0.2%. Okay, didn't have a chance to see what kind of damage that did. Good. Actually missed another silver chest in there, it was kind of hiding in there. Yeah, higher floors, I think, Rebecca, there is just already a chance of getting a treasure room, like an increased chance already. So now you're kind of, you know, adding the multiplicative percentage chance of that even happening when you do flights or affluences, so on and so forth. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me that on the higher floors you're going to see more treasure rooms. Just naturally it already is there. I'm gonna pull this because my burst is basically ready. Oh. There was a squirrel. I don't remember there being one, but there was one, I promise. Alright. So here again, another example of our movement. We recognized the direction of the exit, so I doubled back and went the opposite direction so I can see what's over here. That's going to be a common trend with our movement. Especially if I'm taking the time to check these chests and so on and so forth. It's something that is a good consideration. Like, I wouldn't want to go past the exit room and then go all the way back to see what's over there. By that time, I'm already kind of forfeiting what's on the other side unless I want to waste the time doing it. And, you know, on these lower floors, it may not be as significant or as important, but it's a habit that you do want to start to form once you start getting to those higher floors. Like, you know, maybe you can kind of compartmentalize and kind of adjust your strategy for floor sets, but, you know, especially if you're a newer runner, another potsherd. If you're a newer runner, these are things that you may not have conditioned already in your game plan, so it's a good thing. Just got our second potsherd, guys. We have gotten 2 potsherds from 101 to 106. We've gotten the same amount of potsherds I got on the first 3 floors, on the first 100 floors. 5 floors, 2 potsherds. So again, me trying to convince you guys that those potsherds are going to be so much higher starting at 101 plus. And yeah, we're so far getting through this floor without having to use them. Okay, a couple new enemies here that we're going to talk about. First, we have the Ladybug. Ladybug is psyched. It gives you a poison. We're going to check if it sleeps. Survey says it does not sleep. And there's the poison. Poison is not that significant. If anything, it only gets troublesome if you're fighting something else, or if you're fighting multiple of them, because it will kind of get a little treacherous with the extra damage that you're getting. Next case is the Hornet. It is proximity, similar to the Hornets 10 floors ago. We're checking if it sleeps. It does not sleep. It does have Final Sting, however, it does not use Final Sting as fast as 1 to 10. It will use it maybe in about 30 seconds as opposed to, let's say, 20 seconds.
As we had demonstrated in 1 to 10, really easy way to get away from Final Sting. You're just going to just run away from it. You actually only need a distance of like a melee range to get out of it, like max melee. But you're a caster, just make sure. And we're going to demonstrate this just to showcase it. Run away, run away. It will cancel the cast. It will not recast it until about another 30 seconds. So it's not one of those enemies that will just try to get it off until it dies. It will actually have to wait until the recast is available. There is also the Dung Beetle that we saw, which we'll get a chance to talk about. Hopefully it comes around. But we'll deal with things over here first. I think the Beetle was coming in, but... Let me check this room. I want to kill the Squirrel. Oh, that is the exit. Okay, so we'll come back here eventually. I'll check that exit on the way back. I do want to check the other rooms. There's the Scamper, and there's the Dung Beetle. Okay, Dung Beetle, one of the more concerning things. You know, if anything, the Squirrel's concerning. The Hornets can be concerning if you're leaving a bunch alive. The Dung Beetles are going to be one you want to be concerned with because they are proximity, so they could be blocking you. I believe they're on Sleepable. We'll check just to showcase it. But what's more important here is that they do have the Rhino attack, so we're going to take this with Steel on. Without Steel, that can be a lot. And especially if you start handling, like, multiple of them, that damage can catch up to you, like, very scary, you know? So these are going to be, I would say, a high priority pool to get rid of them, to make sure that they're not going to start ganging up on you. Taking care of the Hornet. That is facing, again, this site. So one way to see what site... So because the Squirrel is so small, we're using the radial and the arrows that it's looking at. So see its forward-facing arrow there? That means it's facing towards this wall, so I know that I can get away from it. Sometimes, some of the enemies may not be very obvious where their heads are or where their butts are. So using the arrows and the radials will be one way to indicate... okay, this one is facing this way, just in case. Because there are a few enemies where, you know, jokingly, you might have a hard time, like, just being like, I don't know which way it's looking, you know? Later on, ice sprites are going to be like that, and there are a couple of them. So if that applies to you, kind of get the radial to show on the enemy, and then you could see the arrow either on the flank arrows or the forward arrow to see which direction they're facing if they are sight aggro. The Hippogryph. So we were talking earlier about the Hippogryph. We had the Hippo Surf earlier, which are sight aggro. The Hippogryph are proximity. So I'm actually going to try to demonstrate that here. So we're going to get close enough to this one, and then it's going to aggro. So it is proximity. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to kind of keep track of what's what, but this one on this hut, it is proximity. It is sleepable. So there you go. I believe we got to... Oh, there's actually one more enemy. As I was saying that there is one more, we have to do the cats, the flying sound cats. I'm gonna get rid of this Hornet so I can get this chest over here. Now, I could have left this floor a lot earlier, but I do want these chests, so that's why I'm making a little bit of an extra effort here. Not to mention, we're still going really fast on Pictomancer. We get a new strength, which is really nice, and I think I have a steel somewhere around there by the close to the spawn room and the exit. Got the Ladybug, no big deal, but I didn't wind up my my motif, so that's bad on me. Alright, let us proceed. Getting that seal, and then I did not check the exit, I did not check the chest that's in the exit. Again, we're looking at which direction that's facing so I can get around that Squirrel because it is sight. Oh, motifs. Oh, but the Squirrel's facing this way. Okay, that's fine. Gonna blow it up. Didn't even stand a chance. This is the steel. Okay, so there's only, I believe, one more enemy we need to discuss, which we should be seeing by the next 3 floors. Checking this chest on the corner here. Now, sometimes there tends to be a trap in this particular room that you see right over here with the lava waterfall and a little bit of cage and kind of an upward staircase. There sometimes is a trap on this left corner. Like right over here. Even if you hug this wall, you hit it. Wasn't there today. But something to note about this particular room. And it's something I recognize, it's something I've hit commonly. You know, the traps are not, like, completely random on the floor. Like, there are kind of set positions with all these traps. So some of them I tend to remember just from experience, and that's one of them that I tend to hit, so gotta be careful then. Okay, 107. Rage! Let's actually see if we find the cat first before I rage. This is a flighted floor, so I actually don't want to use that rage immediately, simply because I need to know where I'm going. I mean, I could just pop it and just kill things, but I kind of want to see, like, you know, where's the exit? And also, we mentioned this earlier, there's a chance to get a treasure room with a flighted floor. So it might be actually advantageous for me to see if there possibly is a treasure room on an exit, perhaps. You know, one of the biggest annoyances that people can run into. So that's why I'm not using that rage immediately. You know, trying to finding an opportune moment to kind of go for it. As much as it's exciting, you know, you want to plan a little bit, have a little strategy going into it. Or a Mimic, that's right, we pop a Mimic, and that would be a good opportunity to go for. That is 100% correct. And yeah, that actually is even a better strategy, because, you know, I mean, you have power to wipe a Mimic, assuming your burst is available, but a Rage can kind of do it a little bit better, right? Thank you for that, Arya. Look at our armored armor. We're getting closer to 99.99. And as I mentioned, these silver chests are going to be basically guaranteed unless they explode on us. Checking the other room. Probably when I get to the end of this room, I can actually pop that rage after I check everything, because we'll be kind of going back towards the rage and towards the exit. That would be a good opportunity to do that. Intuition. I'm lazy on the intuitions. You won't see me use them very often, but they are going to be stuff you want to use if you want some money. But you tend not to see me do it. Now, I know I can sleep this, as we just found out earlier, so we're actually going to sleep it, check the chest first. Fortune, yeah, I'll pop the Fortune in case we get a bronze chest. And let's pop the Reach. Now, I have a little bit of a bad habit. When I do a Rage or when I do a Fortune, a lot of times when I kill an enemy, I go away from the enemy and it goes off screen. So there are a lot of times when I won't actually recognize if a chest dropped. So I'm actually doing that currently on purpose just to make sure that I don't miss it. The map will show it sometimes, but if you didn't open a chest, like on the room I just passed, it may drop a bronze chest and you don't even realize it. Little bit of info if you didn't know this. There is a priority system on the map in terms of what the map will show if there are multiple chests on the ground. So, example, if there is a gold, a silver, and a bronze chest in one room, the gold will take priority and it won't show the silver and the bronze unless you open the gold chest. If it is only a silver and a bronze chest, the priority will be the silver chest, and the bronze is going to be the lowest priority of the chest. So even though the map will tell you that there's a chest in the room, it doesn't necessarily mean there isn't another chest in the room, or that there's a different colored chest in the room. Do I try to find the key before I fight? Do I try to find the key or the exit before I fight a monster because of the key can be a treasure room? So, sometimes. Okay, example here. This is not the greatest example. Okay, this is a good example. So, in this case, Hugo, I cannot proceed to this right room unless I kill this Hippogryph. Why? Because it is proximity. So there are enemies that I will try to kill priority just because I can't get through, you know? But yes, I would love to try to navigate the floor, try to see what's here first before I start committing to, you know, a direction or committing to a thing. Now, the Rage here is actually going to be another really good use here. I'm gonna try to drag this thing with me and see what else we got first. And also see, again, we're going to try to see if we can find the exit in this case, because we do have that Rage. I know I can sleep this, because I've done it already, so we're going to take advantage of that. But yeah, ideally you do want to, because you want to, if anything, best case scenario is that you, actually, I'm going to Fortune here. The best case scenario is that you, I'm going to safety as well. Is that if you run into an exit room, like let's say this is the exit and there's a treasure room here, you want to compile all of your kills here and not take like 6 kills away from the treasure room and then all of a sudden realize, oh, I have to also kill the treasure room. Third potsherd. Any more convincing that this is the section to start getting your potsherds, that you don't have to actually pre-farm or worry about those potions. We have now gotten more potsherds on the 8 floors here from 101 to 108 than we have in the first 100 floors. So, I feel like I wanna advertise that more. I wanna put that more out there. Because it does sound intimidating. It's like, oh, just get to 101 plus. Just get to the, just get 100 floors later and your portraits are good. Not to mention, we had the starting kit of just starting with 20 or 0. Didn't use our first sustaining potion until floor 90. So I'm trying to hope that I can present that kind of, that lower entry point. That, like, even if you're just starting the content, even if you haven't done this before, you don't have to go through this massive, like, farming session before and there's prep session to start up. You can start up immediately after at least you clear 1 to 50. Okay, so our last enemy here is the Gaelicat. We're gonna pull it. It'll do an opening tonal after about 5 seconds. Gonna check if it sleeps. It cannot sleep. It does. Well, it's a cat, right? It does whatever the heck it wants. Yao will do a massive attack down move. So if you get hit with that move for whatever reason, your attack is going to be like basically nothing for like 30 seconds. So kind of ideal to not take that hit if you can help it. But it is a pretty standard AoE, so hopefully you'll be able to dodge it. I believe this was the Rage, and then we cleared up everything going past that one. So let's proceed into the 9th floor. Okay, checking this chest and then checking the other one. Alteration. Oh, I checked that one already, so let's just check this one. Intuition. Oh yeah, I checked both of them, didn't I? I mean, they felt familiar. Okay, checking this last room, because I did not check this chest here. Which it? You think the cat would be totally on board with sleeping? I guess now that it possesses bat wings, not so much. It wants to keep in motion. I think I got blinded again. Okay, we'll just be a little careful on our pulls. Why not use Alteration in 108? So, actually, one thing with Alteration. What does an Alteration do? It has... Okay, what does an Alteration do? It changes the enemy occupying a room, a random room into a Mimic or Mandragora, or possibly Corgans. Now, this is actually more prevalent on this job than really something like Machinist and Warrior. We don't have a method to stop Pox from getting to us. So unless we actually kill it and burst it fast enough, we are going to take Pox if it gets it off. So what you will not see me do very often until I'm into the much higher floors, Archie, is I will avoid the alterations to remove that out of a concern. Because one thing that becomes... Okay, hold on a second. One moment. The Dung Beetle will be a problem. I can line of sight this Rhino attack if I get into a solid wall. It is not the easiest thing to do. Also, now that we've left this dino alive long enough, what you're gonna see it do here is that it's going to do a Rhino Guard. The Rhino Guard will give it an evasion bonus. It's not a perfect evasion, but it's a pretty high evasion. Now, I did heal here, gonna add up for the Rhino attack, because as you can see, that's a lot of damage. I do have a Raising on, so I can be a little risky here, but you can see the amount of damage I'm taking without steal. So just a note on that one of, like, we're a caster. This is our weakness on Pictomancer, that our defense is a little sus. And not to mention the blind flow, which we talked about earlier, about how this is one of those debuffs that could be very concerning with Pictomancer. It's because if you leave alive something long enough like that, that's where it can get very spicy. Gonna pull this one right now. Gonna actually use this wall for the line of sight for the Rhino attack that'll be coming in, and then I'm gonna take the time here to cast my Motif. Okay, going back to the previous conversation about the Alteration. Because of my concern with the Mimics, and the Mimics in Palace of the Dead, Archie, have a much larger aggro range. They are proximity, and their aggro range is even longer than that of a normal enemy. So, more times than not, especially stepping into the cave floors, if I get a Mimic to spawn with an Alteration, I either have to kill it, because it's in my way, or I can rage or something, but it complicates things. It kind of puts me in a position to probably use the Purity, because I get a Pox on if my damage isn't there. So I will typically remove that variable away from the run, and not really use alterations unless I really have to, or on the higher floors where there is more of a benefit to doing it. So that's one thing you'll catch me not doing, is the alterations. Now, of course, one thing to note, just for the sake of Deep Dungeon info, you do get more points killing a Mimic and a Corrigan if they do change into it. So there is a priority if you're kind of going for higher points. But in terms of like focusing on the clear, in terms of just wanting the title, it might be a good idea to actually avoid trying to pop those alterations, unless you intend to use a Witching or use Rage, or you're confident with Pictomancer's Burst. Okay, so one thing you may want to get used to a little bit on Pictomancer is really understanding your limits and what this job can handle in terms of like the damage, because you're gonna see like the HP is gonna get a little spicy here. It really is. Like melee DPS, better to avoid them. Exactly, actually even more so. Like, if anything, Archie, I would give Pictomancer kind of the leg up here, because you do have burst damage to kill a Mimic, whereas a melee, sometimes you don't have that burst damage. Like, you can get sustained damage, but you may not have enough burst damage to kill it before that infatuation goes off. But still, it's one thing I would probably say for newer runners, maybe to kind of keep in mind. You know, use an alteration at your own risk, know what you're walking into, or just be like what I'm going to do on this run and just kind of avoid them altogether and keep that variable away from the run. So you can just focus in on, you know, keeping the purities ready for the higher floors and just kind of getting through the climb until you get to those higher floors. Okay, killing this Ladybug, good. Rage. Oh, that's... well, it is what it is. As a standard that we will do here is I will always do a Strength Steal on the boss. Actually, no. You know what we'll do? Is we'll do a Steal on the boss, but not a Strength. We'll do a Steal on the boss, but not a Strength. Well, hold on. What do I want to do? Okay, we're going to do a Strength Steal on the boss. There's a logic here. So, take this into consideration. Let's say your sustaining potions are way better than mine, that you have more than 30, maybe you're sitting at 100, 200, something like that. You can totally fight this boss without Strength and Steel. The sacrifice here is that you will be using more sustaining potions to get through the boss. Pretty much every boss that we're going to climb from this point forward will require at least a sustaining potion here and there. So by utilizing a Strength, Steel, and probably a Lust, you are now reducing the time of this fight because you're killing it faster. Therefore, you're reducing the amount of sustaining potions that you're using. So if you're in a situation like I am, where the sustaining potion is very low, and you're trying to be conservative, and you're hoping that this climb in particular, like we just picked up 3 potsherds, that you're hoping that like as you climb up you're going to get some, this is an idea to take to mitigate the usage of it. But if you're riding with like 1,000 because you had so many potsherds, I mean, just do this normally, no strength, no steel, and just pop those potions and you'll be perfectly fine. So in the case of our current situation, I will do a strength steal, and I will do a lust. So we'll also make sure that our motif is available here. Lust. Again, we're getting 5 hits on the lust here, because it is a maximum of 5 stacks, and then we'll just kind of fight this boss normally. First thing it's going to do is a little bit of a tank buster. Double attack there, followed by a point blank. Oh, actually, no, I'm sorry, it's a conal coming up. Large conal coming up, Stormwind. Then, I believe it's a point blank. Now we're going to do our burst damage here. That Abomination will give you slow, not really great to take here. Going to now be an AoE on me. I'm going to take this time to do a motif. And then it's going to do a raid wide. It's also going to be my first instance in which I use my shielding on Air Blast to kind of block the dot coming in. Good. Probably going to break the shield with the Tank Buster if it hits me soon enough. There, it actually broke it there. Gonna pop a potion here. Gonna maybe save Adel for the next thing. You're gonna use Dash to kind of get out of this one. And this is kind of where I personally like this job. Having to recast the motifs, find the right spot for it, you know, making that optimal. I do like this part of the casting job, but this may not be for everyone. So something to take note that the motifs are really great on the floors because you can do them a lot of times out of combat. But on the bosses, this job starts playing like, you know, how you would in a raid or in a party format. So this is something that can be questionable in terms of playstyles. Popping my first sustaining potion there because we're going to take quite a bit of damage. But hey, look, getting away with only one is very conservative, you know. I was destined to use some, but we are being conservative on that. Boss is actually dying pretty fast. We're going to probably kill this even with the vulnerability still up here. AoE on me, I'm going to move out because I'm in my pallet right now. Okay, Aeroblast is coming in. I'm going to shield... Actually, shield first. And now we cast the motif again. Gonna get hit with the Tank Buster. It might break the shield before that, but that's perfectly fine. There's the shield break. I shouldn't. That wasn't the direction I wanted to go, but I still got out of the AoE, so that's what's important. So I mentioned this on the previous floors too. It might be a good idea to actually pop the strength on the previous floor set, on the previous floor, on floor 9, as opposed to the boss. You know, to kind of have a little bit of uptime, because you're going to probably carry it into the boss with how fast you kill this boss. But because we were going through extra explanation, I kind of wanted to save it for the boss. But there you go. That's 101 to 110 in the books. Finn thinks Warrior is the most consistent class for clearing Palace of the Dead. Do I agree? Nope. Now, it's still personal preference. Now, also, if I were to take Warrior, do I think I can consistently clear? Yeah, I think so. But I play Machinist better than Warrior, personally. And I went through, Sabin, a whole episode of me running Machinist, like, dozens and dozens of times, because we were planning to do Palace of the Dead for AGDQ back in 2023. And we cleared every single run. Like I probably cleared, like 20 in a row on Machinist with a variance of things. Now, I imagine his quote there went far deeper to just a single sentence, right? And I mean, you can make the argument about what Machinist has over Warrior and so on and so forth, but it still will come down to personal playstyle. I can make an argument that Pictomancer can be probably extremely consistent to clear to some extent because of its burst and the amount of time it buys you, but it really depends on your preferences of jobs. But yeah, it's like a yes and no. The question I always like to pose, Sabin, is the $1 million question of, like, if someone were to give you $1 million, if someone were to give me or Finn $1 million, and our duty was to clear Deep Dungeon on the spot right now, barring disconnects, but like right now, what job would you do? If it was Palace of the Dead, I will 100% pick Machinist over any job whatsoever. But my basis for that is that I've done it like 30 plus times, and I have full confidence on what I can do on that job. You know, I know its limits, I know everything in that job. You know, maybe for Finn, it would be Warrior, because he's put a lot of time into it, a lot of studying, a lot of runs, a lot of practice. He can do amazing things on that job. You know, on paper, I think it's difficult on paper, because look, Rebecca talking like here, if you kind of talk a little bit of Rebecca's conversation here, they tried Pictomancer, didn't quite like it, so they're back in Machinist. But you could have someone who loves Pictomancer, who will probably get the most out of Pictomancer because they really love the job, and they might play that job the best over Warrior and Machinist because they just don't like Warrior and Machinist, right? So there's still that subjective value to picking and playing a job that does factor in, you know? I think that's one of the beauties of this game, of Final Fantasy XIV, is that there is still a good, especially in Deep Dungeon solo, there is still a good injection of player skill involved that can tilt a job or a thing for you more in one direction over person A, person B, person C, you know, and that you can't dispute that, because we've had people like, okay, like one really solid thing here is trying to convince someone that Machinist is the greatest job ever when they have 200-300 ping to the server, and like there's no way I'm going to convince someone who can't play Machinist with proper ping that it is going to be a really good job in Palace of the Dead. I know that from experience, that Machinist with high ping is complete ass. Like, it's not a fun job. Can you do it? Yes, but you're not playing it the same as someone else who has no ping, you know? Welcome to 111 to 120. We got through the floor pretty well, used I think 1 sustaining potion into this floor, and we picked up 3 potsherds, so look, that's getting up there, so that's gonna continue. Now, one of the most interesting things, I should have mentioned this back in 100, but I'll mention this right now, is that when I did the Machinist tutorial, I took into consideration free trial gamer, because in the free trial, at least up to where we are in the game right now, it can get up to Stormblood, and the free trial, they don't access the market board, but they have access to like Machinist. You know, Machinist is one of the jobs, Warrior is one of the jobs, and so I did that run without food on, because it's like, oh well, what if you don't really craft in the game, you don't have access to the market board, so you can't really get food. We're on Pictomancer. Pictomancer is the newest shop in Dawntrail, which means you cannot do this on the free trial. So I'm gonna now make an assumption that you do have food, and the food that you're gonna be looking for is anything above 540. Now, you can go with 540 food, but you wanna use anything above that. So if you have raid food now, that's like whatever the thing is, I don't know what it is right now, but whatever that food is, and you have like the proper stats you want to use, then use that, you know, as long as it's above 540. So I'm going to be using this one. I like to have direct hit and determination. Direct hit kind of gives you direct hit in the content. If you don't use direct hit food, you actually cannot do direct hit outside of your hammer on normal attacks. So putting direct hit on your using direct hit food now will give you like about a 2-3% direct hit, so it's small, but it actually puts it in as opposed to having 0. And then determination is a pretty good stat to have as well. Actually, for casters, I typically like to go spell speed. However, kind of my decision here is that because the motifs do not get affected by spell speed, as in casting these ones in combat, I go away from spell speed and I just focus on pure damage. So we're going to be using vegetable soup here, and you're probably going to see me keeping this food up at all times. Now, one thing that's useful about food, aside from the stats, the stats are not going to be tremendous in terms of what they're adding to your actual run, but if anything, the food is the HP is going to be really nice. So that extra HP could make you survive an extra hit. So something to take into consideration if you need at least some excuse to use some food here. All right, let's go in. 111. Now, one thing here is that there will be a lot of veteran runners who will actually consider raising on this set. And I don't blame them. There's quite a lot of very special occurrences here that can happen, and we'll definitely kind of showcase one of them as we see them. And we'll continue doing the pulls here. And as we had been in the first 10 floors, we're going to try to sleep everything at least once to show you if things are going to be sleepable. First, I'm going to open with our motifs here. Pulling this one. This is a sight enemy. I'm going to open with the sleep. It's going to open with a conal if it actually gets it off. It is sleepable. So it'll pop a conal here. Alright, almost dead. Now here, probably the most deadliest you're going to deal with is the pudding. The pudding is proximity, but what's really bad about the pudding is that they stay in melee range, so they are casting on you and meleeing on you, and they do a little bit of a big hit as well. Gonna shield here to block the hit that's gonna come in right now, right there. Gonna sleep. It is not sleepable. Gonna pop this thing, kill the damage. Something behind me? Nope, I'm paranoid. You can see the damage that we took on that one too. Pulling the next one here. I don't have a burst, so I'm actually going to chill. Oh, I burst in like 10 seconds. I'll pull it. Is the food I use good for any job? You know, you don't have to go crazy on food. As I mentioned, you can just be above, 540. If anything, I would, if you had to kind of pick a food and kind of be like, which one do I go for? Just having something with direct hit would be a good starter. But you can use really like your typical raid food that you use for any job that you're looking for. That would be my recommendation. I don't go crazy on food at all. Kind of all I care about really is more the HP. But definitely won't be the difference between you clearing or not clearing. I'm gonna pull this pudding here, but I will try to pull the leech so we can get it recorded on as our pull here. I'm gonna move across this room. I actually should have pulled the other one because it's blocking the chance, but we'll go around this way. The leech is gonna be sight aggro on the leech. One of the easier ones to pull as well, so not a bad pull. Actually, let me pull this one instead. I'm gonna pull it. I'm gonna sleep it to check if it's sleepable. It is sleepable. Using those sleeps just in case, you know, you run into a situation, maybe you pulled too much, maybe you hit a luring trap, and we're putting that knowledge in just so you know, something to keep in the back of your head as something for the future. My first instinct with a luring trap is probably going to be a sleep before anything else. Rage. I think I pulled everything here, so let's actually do a safety and a fortune for the rage. And I'll try to see if we can kind of maximize the chest. We didn't see the patrols, which I want to showcase, which is perfectly fine. But we're doing this specifically to try to go for chests here. How does it feel with my current Aetherpool versus cap 99.99? So I'm not too well versed on the literal difference of what we're missing that we are not 99 as opposed to now having 89. 78, but you are looking at a little bit less HP because we are at 78, so that means, you know, our defense is probably going to be a little bit lower, or rather we have a higher chance of like getting hit, you know, harder if that makes sense. But it's not a significant difference versus 99. Now, in a transformed state, we can open bronze chests. We kind of displayed that earlier, but I cannot open gold chests. But we can open bronze chests. Alright, we're gonna dump out of there. Let's check the chests that I had missed. I did do a safety. That steel is really good, because I'm gonna probably use it on the next floor. Show Toad Snake? I will not show that, but luckily I will be able to insert that with a clip that I have done before about the combination of being a toad with a cobra. We'll mention that once we run into the cobra, but thankfully I will be able to at least showcase that. Not on this run, which I would prefer not to do, but Now, if we get a raising on this floor set, I may consider it, but that's only if we get a raising. Otherwise, I'll just insert the clip. Okay, proceeding forward towards the exit. That actually surprised me because the thing wasn't ready on cooldown, but it saved my input. So I just had this like burst of movement, like wait, but then I remembered I hit the button. We're gonna keep that affluence to 2, as I had mentioned, so that we can try to push those chests. Potchard, but not this time. It's not that it drops less frequently. It's not going to be overly common. I mean, I wouldn't say it's, like, rare, if that makes sense, but I'm not expecting it to show up. Okay, so here we have an ability down floor. Now, this is an interesting situation here, and I may do a Serenity because I'm not running a Strength Steel, plus I want to demonstrate something. So we're going to Serenity because we don't have basically anything on Pictomancer if we have the ability down. So I'm actually going to Serenity that. Gigantoad is a Sight Patrol. We're going to be facing it, and it's going to do a Sticky Tongue. Going to be important here. I'll demonstrate what happens when you don't face it, but you do want to make sure that you're looking at it eye to eye when you pull that enemy. I didn't try to sleep it, so I'm gonna try to pull another one. Hopefully there is another one that I can try to sleep. Okay. Hoping I get another one. We should have another chance to find one later, but we'll proceed. Okay, guess I'll fight you. Gonna pull the pudding because I would like to get this chest. Potsherd. Get another Potsherd. If you need any more convincing that you get Potsherds here. Okay, in a bit of a pickle here. So, first instance of a Mimic in which I probably don't kill it in time. So our course of action here is to Witching. One of the ways to get away from Pox as a caster, or as someone who doesn't have an interrupt, and you're kind of, you know, been kind of nice about not hitting traps overly, and you're sitting at 3 Witching. It's going to be a really good strategy there, and we got rewarded getting it back right away. Because Purity is your other way to get rid of the Pox, but definitely don't sleep on the ability to do a Witching, because it's another way to avoid that Pox, and Pictomancer's damage is extremely impressive. So you're more, like, for a lot of floors, maybe until you get to the maybe 181 plus, you're gonna kill it in time with the Witching on. Checking these rooms here, I will try to go for that chest. Nice, Steel came back, that's really good. Checking this chest, I'm probably gonna have to put that pudding. We have a Steel on, so that's going to be very useful. Checking this room. Again, we're kind of respecting the rooms a little bit because I am kind of hoping for more Potsherds or... And there's another one! That's 5 since 101 right now. And at this point, like, there could be a certain situation here where, like, I just pick up enough, and then I don't have to necessarily go out of my way for the for the bronze chests. But 5 is 100 potions, and that's a lot now to work with, you know? I would say, I mean, aside from the bosses, you're probably gonna see me start using a little bit more sustainings, maybe at about 131 or probably 141. That's where you'll see... Ah, perfect! Okay. So actually it's a respawn. So there's one thing I want to show you about the Gigantoad. Now, I had mentioned earlier on the initial pull that you have to make sure that you look at it when you pull it, because this thing has positionals, the only enemy in Deep Dungeon that has positionals. What's going to happen is when you have your back face to it, or your side face to it, and it does Sticky Tongue, you will get stunned, and it will wombo combo into Labored Leap. Now, for a caster without steal, that probably kills you with that combination. It's one reason I actually ended up having the steal on. So I'm going to sleep this thing right now, just to check on the sleep. It is sleepable. So here, interesting, I may not get the... I may not get the flank, because as I pull it, it might actually turn. So I'm actually going to wait for this thing to just go off of sleep. But what I mean by flanking is if you literally have your side. See this? See our flanking side? If your side is facing towards the Toad, or my back is facing towards the Toad, when this thing pops Sticky Tongue, you'll see I will get stunned and then Labor Leap will hit. Whereas before, when we first pulled it, that was not the case. So you want to be extremely careful with these Toads. One of the first ones that's going to kill you. There's the stun. Can't get out of this. Boom. Actually, I am stunned through that Labor Leap. So that is a very unique mechanic of this Toad. It can get very complicated if you deal with two of them. I remember watching my buddy have two of them, and they are like, because their bodies are so big, they were angled in weird angles. So even though he was kind of facing both of them, it counted enough that they were on the flank, and then they kind of did a double Labor Leaf on him at the same time. So that's one thing to be very careful with those enemies. We have yet another Rage here. I think I'm going to safety and then pop the Rage from here with a Fortune as well. Still kind of looking for probably chests to happen here. At what amount of potions would I stop going out of my way for bronze chests? Interesting question. I would say if I can stay above 250 going into the floor set. So we're talking I have 250 and I have potsherds at my disposal. I may start to not necessarily go out of my way to check the bronze chest. Now, one thing to keep in mind though, granted that's a good thing to do if you're, you know, going through multiple runs, or let's say you're consistently getting to like 181, like what if your prog point is like 181, 191, those are going to be the sets of floors in which you're probably using a ton of potions to keep yourself up. So you may not want to necessarily skip, you know, as many, like a lot of bronze chests on the climb up, because you're also trying to sustain possibly a second, third, fourth run, so on and so forth. With that being said, it does take a little extra time to get to those bronze chests. But if you're getting quite a lot of them and you're getting really lucky, I mean, you can kind of go like, you know, maybe occasionally check it once in a while, that kind of thing. The Rage was up here, so I already picked up the Rage, so I'm actually going to bypass it and go this way. I mean, the best case scenario is like you kind of always open them, you know, because you will always need potsherds, if you will. But, sometimes I don't feel as bad. Like in this case, since we were picking up so much, if there's like a bronze chest maybe across the map, I'll be like, you know what, I'll skip that one. I'll go for something a little bit more easier to get to, you know? I remember in Endwalker, 400 to 500 pots are recommended full run. So, excellent question, Rebecca. Especially if you're looking at the older guides, like my older live tutorial guide from Machinist. This was before they changed the sustaining potions from 15 seconds to 30-second duration, yet another potsherd. So that, in essence, is one of the reasons why those guides are theoretically out of date. So, like, because now the duration is 30 seconds, you essentially can cut that number in half. Now, granted, the cooldown, or rather, you can recast it in 15 seconds still, but the duration is 30 seconds, so technically it's not cut in half. But you in all intents and purposes, really only need half the amount than you used to, that I used to recommend for the starting bit. So, yeah, you really don't need that much anymore. Okay, first instance of a slime. Thankfully, Pictomancer has an enormous amount of damage. This thing does have an enrage in about 35 seconds if you leave it alive long enough. So we're going to pull it. We're going to open with sleep here. It's going to give you Fizz Vuln down, but it only lasts a couple seconds. Does not sleep. Kill it in time. Boom. If you leave this alive, I stress, leave it alive for 35 seconds, it will do Rapture, and it will kill you, guaranteed. I think even tanks have a very tough time surviving that even with mitigation. So do not leave this thing alive at any point. If you pull it, give it full respect. Make sure it's dead before you start moving. That's nice. Okay. I'm gonna use my regular G-Cities here to kill it. Alright, gonna check the other rooms. Gonna pull this slime to get it out of the way. Have my burst, gonna make sure I angle this correctly here. Gonna pull the Ergonite. I'm gonna check this room so I can get a chance to go over here. And, okay, bronze chest and a silver chest here, so I will proceed to see how that's going. Gilmore and Potsherd, perfect. Gonna check this silver chest, what I'm gonna hold, Mississippi 1, Mississippi 2, Mississippi. That's exactly why I wanted to do that one, so... Alright. Proceeding forward. Affluence, actually I'll use the affluence. Okay, we're gonna get to the exit and start clearing up the exit. Because the exit had a couple enemies that was in there. Alright, a couple enemies here. Pulling this one. Pudding is coming in here. Alright, to the exit. I lost Cobra. First instance of a Cobra here. And I'm not gonna use that alteration. Okay, so Cobra here. Little deadly. It's a site aggro patrol. It will do a poison, which can definitely catch up to you if you're not using any sustaining potions, so be careful about that. We're also gonna check if it sleeps over here. Checking. It does sleep. So it's gonna open with that poison. It's a ranged attack. So be sure to be careful. We do have this crazy interaction with the Cobra where if we hit a Toad Trap, while the Cobra is aggroed, it will use a special move called Devour and literally eat the Toad and one-shot you. So it's going to be yet another enemy that you want to give a little bit of care when you pull it. You don't want to run around with the enemy and accidentally hit a trap with it. Like, everything else is kind of whatever, but that one in particular, don't do it with this one. Pull the Nanka here. It is a sound aggro, so it's really guides to dodge. I'm going to pull another one to kind of demonstrate if we can sleep it, but we'll go into this one. Salamander is also sound. What's special about the Salamander here is that it will do a move that is called Mukin after a couple bit. Now, the Mukin gives it a massive stone skin, and usually you want to wait for that stone skin to wear off before you continue to do damage. So that's one way to that's what the Salamander does. We're going to pull another one to kind of demonstrate a couple things that's interesting with Pictomancer. Now, with the Salamander, it kind of gets roughly about, I think it's like almost like a 50 to 60% shielding on itself for 8 seconds. So it's like literally an over shield on its HP. I think it's even like maybe close to like 90% shielding in terms of how much of a shield it gets. But that's where Pictomancer is going to be hilarious. So if we find another one, we'll talk about it. The Nanka do shoot out of combat. So one thing to be careful when there's multiple Nanka on the floor. So we're going to check here if it sleeps. So I'm going to pull one right now. There's the one actually shooting out of combat over there. So it does sleep. There's your check on that one. Now let's see if we can find another salamander to demonstrate some fun stuff with Pictomancer. Okay. Gonna walk. Again, it is sound. No salamander here, so we'll do it on the next floor. Checking the chest before I pull something. Oh, there's another room actually. Okay, let me check the chest here. Something respawn? No, not yet. I do want to check that chest, but the slime is sound. If I failed to mention that one, so we can get around him, no problem. Gonna walk. Actually, I'm gonna pull the pudding, and we can demonstrate this fun thing with the salamander. Now, actually, I'll probably want to pull 2 different salamanders to demonstrate 2 things. So something a little special that you can do with Pictomancer too. So one thing, a lot of enemies in Deep Dungeon will occasionally use their ability about 5 seconds after they get pulled. You know, so like 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, boom, they tend to do an attack. So with the salamander, roughly about 5 seconds after you pull it, it will do Mukin. Now, what you can do and predict with Pictomancer and really all the casters is that when you pull it, you would do 1 pull on the salamander, like 1 GC on the salamander, and then open with sleep. And you'll get the timing on the sleep to actually stop the Mukin from showing up. So I'm going to pull it here. Going to wait a little bit. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. Going to cast the sleep here. Get the timing. Boom. Cancel the Mukin that way. So that's one way that Pictomancer can kind of block that Mukin. We don't have the interrupts, but this is our way of doing it. We got the Cobra here. Gonna do a shielding here. My steel did drop, so we're gonna kind of respect that a little bit. And I'm dying, so I'm gonna hold it. Okay. Might have to shield, especially if it gets the other poison off, which it did, but I think I might be okay. Gonna pop shield. Yeah, just in case. The poison, as you can see, it's a 500 tick versus my sustaining potion here, which is going to be a 1000 tick, so it is going to kind of cover that a little bit. I do want to try to get to that silver chest, but we may have to deal with the stuff here. There tends to be a trap on this left side, so we'll see if we get burned by that trap. I'm ready with a witching if needed. Well, oh boy, let's make sure there's no Cobra coming in. Again, if I aggro a Cobra in this state, I am getting one shot by the Cobra. It's just gonna use literally devour and kill me. So, yeah, we're gonna wait for that thing to come up. Okay, let's go walking over again. Again, I kind of knew that trap could exist there, but now I could like dive into the middle of this room. Now, one cool thing we can do with the salamander, so we showed you what happens when, if the Mukin was coming in, and that we can kind of time and sleep. Now, because of Pictomancer's ridiculous damage, here's one thing I'm going to show you guys about how ridiculous. Like I said, this shielding is almost like a 90% stone skin over its HP, because when he did a rage, it only dropped it to 60%. It's going to get this Mukin off in a little bit, right here. We're going to burst the heck out of this thing, and watch our burst going in. 1, 2, it's already gone. We killed the shield. And you really can't do that with a lot of jobs with that burst. Like, you know, if you're only looking at Pictomancer and you haven't really looked at other jobs, and like you try to see, you know, you don't really have that comparison of what other jobs are capable of doing, it may not be like overly impressive, but I'll tell you right now, like that is crazy that a Pictomancer can really rip apart that stone skin with the full burst. I'm gonna try to get these chests over here because I don't remember what they were. Resolution. I do want that silver chest. Again, the Nanka will shoot out of combat. However, ooh, that's a great. This is going to be witching. I'm not going to open that silver right now. I'm also going to walk for now. Slime has to die first. One interesting interaction with the witching we haven't mentioned yet. We talked about the slime. How the slime will enrage. In 35 seconds. Now, if you do... Hold on a minute. There's actually a bunch of imps. If it comes out of the witching... It's just like you just pulled it. So it's not going to all of a sudden now be 30 seconds into the pull. It's going to be like it's at 0 seconds into the pull. So it resets the enrage timers. And that's one thing to take into consideration. I mean, it's not something you'll commonly utilize depending, like if you fight like a worm later on, you'll probably use the witching to kind of like maybe stop the timer from happening as a way to look into it. But yeah, it's something that is neat knowledge to have, that it resets those in-range timers. Alright, let's hop into 116. We're gonna start to see probably some newer things showing up on the next couple of floors, if not this one, certainly the next one after that one, which we definitely will talk about. One more special enemy to discuss on the run. Okay, more bronze chests that I'm going to try to get to here. We have the strength on, so we're going to kind of rip things apart here. I saw one of the enemies I want to pull, but that's a more relaxed one. I'm going to pull the salamander here, and I'm going to respect... Actually, I can probably kill this before it even gets into a problem here. Before it even gets into Mukin. That's your fourth way of doing it, is just you blow him up before the Mukin even shows up. You don't even have to sleep him if he's already dead. More potsherds. Let me tell you, those potsherds, dude. Okay, the Biloko is a site patrol. We're going to open with a sleep here. Can it sleep? It cannot. It doesn't care for the sleep. But it is a really easy enemy to fight. If you actually have this enemy close to something, it will then try to stone skin its buddy. The stone skin that it casts is kind of whatever. There it is, casting the stone skin. You can break it so easily on Pictomancer, so you don't really have to concern yourself there. But that's what it will do if it's close to something. Now, one benefit about this floor at the moment is that a lot of things are sound, as we had talked about. The slime, the Nanka, the salamander, they're all sound, so we can get through these rooms without really having to fight anything. And you don't want to fight something going through a room, as we kind of showcased on the previous set. As I was trying to navigate in that donut room to try to get to the silver chest, we hit a luring trap. And if I had been fighting something along the way, we further complicated situations there, right? So you want to fight in hallways, if you haven't been doing so already, because they are safe. But more so on these type of cave floors, since the cave floors are kind of little treacherous here. Gonna get to the exit over here. There's multiple rooms that I haven't checked yet, but we're so far away from them, so I'm just gonna kind of go. And we're already up. Let's go to the next floor. Next floor, we're definitely gonna see more stuff that are gonna start to show up. Okay, into 117. Okay, 91, 92. Seedling, first instance of a seedling. These guys will just do an on poison, so every time it hits me, it will poison. Well, oh my god, you know what? Last time I was talking about these enemies, I was like, oh, every so often they're gonna poison every hit, and then the thing proceeds to poison me every single hit. That first hit that it didn't poison, so I'll go back to saying it doesn't do it every hit. I was right the first time, it just didn't prove it. Anyway, not a bad enemy to fight. You can also bypass it because it is sound, but every so often it will try to hit that poison. But that poison is kind of whatever. It's honestly not as deadly as the Cobra poison, which is really a lot more threatening. Ochu over here, it's proximity, so it is a little bit of a priority pull. Does a giant AoE gold dust around you. Does not sleep, does not care. There it is. It will do moderate damage if you get hit with it, but it is slow enough. You should be able to dodge it. Just watch your feet. One thing to actually note here, a little bit of an extra tidbit here. Sometimes you get caught up with your camera angle like this. See this? And you're up against the wall because you're fighting. If you get hit or if you get targeted by things out of combat, this can get a little spicy because you can't see your feet. So you want to be careful with those camera angles just in case. Now, a lot of times I kind of do predict that I'm going to be fighting those things, so I really try to take that extra effort to make sure that I don't get caught off guard like that. But it is still worth noting that people have gotten caught with that. Like, they either don't realize something is out there, or they're kind of committing to that camera angle, and then they kind of get burned with that camera angle. Since we got burned with the donut room, make sure that you're careful with the donut room. Even along the wall, sometimes donut rooms can be really, really annoying with their traps. So we'll be careful here. Try not to take something with me as I'm going through. Okay, good. Exit is over here. Nothing new at the moment. There's only one other enemy we haven't discussed yet, so we will try to see. We'll definitely get to it on the next two, but Alright, We checked everything here. Witching came back. Sick. Let's try to get off this floor. Yeah, the Cobra poison is scary, especially if you start to have multiple of them. They will stack, so they're its own separate debuff. So if you have 2 Cobras, you're getting 2 different poisons, and that can be really bad with their damage. You want to be very careful with them. Give them a lot of respect. Again, aside from also avoiding simply hitting a trap with them, you don't want to start dealing with their shenanigans, giving multiple poisons on you. Oh, you know, that thing does do a lot of damage, so I was a little bit scared there, but we're okay. Me trying to commit as a caster. The greed. Gonna do an affluence here. The back is drop. The back is drop can crit for 6k if you remember correctly. I remember it doing quite a lot of damage. Yeah, it's not a pretty one. So we're going to take a little bit of care with the no items here. Not that we've really been using items to begin with, but we don't want to get into a weird spot here. We are entering this donut room, which means, you know, we could hit a trap. So as we are into this room, one thing that I will already plan out, like a game plan that I'm going to already set. Tragedy hits, you know, we hit a luring trap or something, immediate serenity, because we want to have options. So just already kind of have that in the playbook, just in case something happens. You know, you don't want to have to be like, oh no, what do I do now? Because we already have this debuff, you can already kind of think about what's my game plan if something happens, you know? That would be nice, though. Okay. First instance of a Morble, it is proximity. Special enemy here, what we want to do is we want to park in the middle of its hitbox. Why? Because it's going to sleep us. It has this really bad wombo combo where it sleeps us and then does bad breath. And it's kind of designed if you're in melee range or casting range. If you get slept, then it's going to be too far away from you and then it'll land bad breath on you. And especially when you're a caster with kind of limited tools to kind of keep yourself alive, or like, you know, it does do silence. Best way to handle those Morbles. Always dive dead center on the hitbox. Let it do the sleep. A lot of times it will hit you, but sometimes it doesn't hit you. And you'll see, the moment that sleep naturally, organically wears off, then you'll be able to just get out of bad breath by like just doing 1 or 2 steps like left or right. So always, always, always handle those Morbles dead center. Just run right into their hitbox. Gonna pull this Ochi because it is blocking the chest here. And we are already out because I believe I flighted. 2 steals, pretty brutal. I see the exit from afar. Gonna eye this. I really can't get to chest that much, so we're probably just gonna head straight to the exit right here. I hit my walk too late there. Okay. More than likely gonna pull that Morble right now because it is like right on top of the exit, but also I probably have to pull this Ochu because it is proximity. So I'm gonna pull the Ochu first because it is directly blocking me. Gonna watch my beam here so I don't clip the Morble by accident. And yeah, that Morble has to go for sure. So I'm gonna get my motifs up. Again, we're going to dive dead center into this Morble. Hello? Oh, it's gonna, I mean, it's basically dead because we had like a full burst here, but... Okay. Checking the chests. Prepping a motif in case it's a mimic. It is not. Let's go to the next floor. How do I handle no ability floors as Pictomancer? More times than not, I am doing a Serenity. I mean, we can get away with HP down. We can get away with no items sometimes because of Pictomancer's strength, but a lot of times you're gonna see me do a I'm gonna do a sight here actually. You're gonna see me do a Serenity for that because you just have no damage, you know, and that kind of sucks. Okay, the exit is that way, so I'm actually gonna rage from here and check these other rooms as we go. Gonna do the fortune just in case I get lucky with some things here. Ceiling is sound. Where's the chest? It's over there. I'm gonna explore the other room. I may not come to this room, we'll see. Landmine trap, if you're kind of unfamiliar with some of the traps here. Luring trap here. which actually might be advantageous for me right now, because I'm not going to go back, so I'm going to hit this trap for extra kills, especially because we have the Fortune. A little nice strategy here, but you do want to be careful with your priority kills. So that Marble certainly wanted to die sooner rather than later, because it does do that sleep thing, whereas the Seedling is just going to do poison on me, so it's not too big of a deal. I'm going to focus in on the Marble first, and then the Seedling. This is a Toad trap, so if I hit this trap, it is going to turn me into a Toad. Got my Strength, which actually is one thing I was really hoping for. One reason I wanted to go with the Fortune here is because of that Strength. Because I was only sitting at 2 Strength, because I had kind of overused one earlier. I think I was clear, by the way, on the chest in this room, because I took a gander on it. Both of the enemies that were currently here were on the left side, but a respawn could have happened, so... Now, next boss we want to have, again, I'm going to keep having perfect. We got a 3 Strength and Steel. I'm going to have Strength and a Steel going to the boss, as I will usually average, just for demonstration purposes. Again, also a recommendation if you're going with lower sustaining potions, because it will mitigate the usage of those sustaining potions. You can totally kill this boss without Strength and Steel, but you will have to chug sustaining potions to stay alive in the fight. We're probably going to use 1 or 2 ourselves. But, yeah, just something to note. I probably aggro here. Yeah, okay, we're gonna dive into the middle of the hitbox. See if it's gonna come out. I am not slept. I'm gonna get hit here. Oh, it's gonna wear off. See as we get out just in time. Gonna beam. Alright, we're good there. Okay, gonna check this chest. Each of these things are sound, so we can get through no problem. Light, don't need it. Alright, so we get into the boss. I will do a Strength Steel there. Here I will actually open with Lust. One of the strats I like to utilize is that as the first set of ads come in here, which you'll see as the fight goes on, I like to Lust there to get rid of the bees, but Pictomancer has a lot of splash damage, so it's not going to be as necessary, or really you don't have to go that crazy with it. So we're going to do a Strength Steel here. I'm going to pop a potion, because it'll open with a Tank Buster, and then we're going to Lust for 5 hits to get the 5 vulnerability up here. Potion is there for a little safety because of the Tank Buster coming in. A lot of times I find myself, if I open with a shield and Lust, I actually don't last long enough for him to do that Tank Buster for it to break the shield, so I don't open with the shielding. Okay, now we go. Now, it's gonna do that Tank Buster into point blank into AoE like you just saw. Pretty easy to dodge, followed in by this Raid Y, which I'm going to use my shield here to kind of block that one a little bit. Doesn't break the shield, but that's okay. May break the shield here, broke the shield. So after this part, you're going to see bees show up. The bees need to die. Now, the bees will do 70% of your max HP if they stay up, because if they stay up after these 3 line AoEs, they're going to do their final sting, like in range. So you want to be careful with that. I'm actually going to prioritize and kill them. It is 3 line AoEs. One other indicator is this boss will actually leave the gate, because it is now parked permanently at the gate shooting these lasers. So if the bees were alive right now, roughly about 5 seconds after this, you'll see the bees start to do their enrage. So that's one thing to be careful with. But as Pictomancer, assuming you had Strength on, you shouldn't have an issue dealing with those bees. But if for some reason you're not running the Strength, that's where it could get a little bit of a concern. So just make sure you kill them. Now, a strategy that some people like to do sometimes, especially on non-DPS classes, is that they will leave one of the ads alive and kill the other one, because sometimes it takes a little bit longer to kill them in general. But for a DPS, I would recommend just wiping them out so you don't run into weird complications, because you do have to keep your HP up. I'm going to wait for the beast to come over here, because we have our burst coming in. I'm going to hit the boss here, instead of directly the bees, and I'll wipe the bees out later. So you can see, with the beam and the wing muse, we already wiped them out, basically, so that's really useful. And I waited for that AoE splash damage to come in. Alright, so now we just kind of wipe out the boss here. Gonna prep the shield here, because you'll see that Tank Buster showing up. Boom. Broke the shield. Perfect. And we're just gonna wipe the boss. We should have no problem actually killing this boss before the next set of ads show up. Okay, we're in. 94, 90, 82. Showed up a little interesting stuff here. And that is a 111 to 110. What level arm and armor do I need to start doing solo runs? So SSJ, Bulma, one thing that I've been showcasing on these runs is actually I've been starting my solo attempts on floor 1 as low as 58 or 59. You can technically go even lower than that. I probably wouldn't want to go lower than like 40, like bare minimum. You know, you want to have at least a starting kit, but you don't have to be 99.99. As you climb through the floors, you'll get arm and armor. So as an example, Bulma, we started the run, like I said, we started the run actually 58-52, and we're currently at 120 at 94.82. If that showcases how much we've gotten as we have climbed up. That's why I used to kind of recommend that you had full arm and armor before you start your Necromancer journey, but nowadays I'm changing that, and it's like, no, start at like 50, start at like 60, you know? Welcome to 121 to 130. Now, I would argue that this floor set actually is going to be easier than the previous one. Only reason why is because the previous one was kind of riddled with a lot of very special enemies, if you will. Had the toads that can stun you, you had the Morbles with their weird stuff, you had the Cobras with their weird stuff and the poison. So the enemies here are a little bit more tamed. They are actually progressively getting more difficult, but they don't have weird mechanics. Although one thing you may notice here is you are going to be dealing with a lot of proximity enemies. So if anything, your kill count might be higher, simply because even if you're being very strategic about your kills and your navigation and all that stuff, you may have to end up killing extra just because stuff is just constantly in your way because of the proximity. Now, one thing to note here, you'll see it on my hotbar, which I haven't talked about. I do have something called Spine Drops. Spine Drops is a medicine that can be used to remove paralysis, and we are going to run into one of those enemies right at the very beginning that does give paralysis, which is the Beasts. An enemy I prefer not to really fight because of that paralysis, but we could utilize the Spine Drops up in these floors. Now, it sounds amazing, but the one problem with this button, it is a 1 minute 30-second cooldown. If I use it, Sustaining Potion also gets put into the 1 minute 30-second cooldown. So you want to be very careful about your decision about utilizing a Spine Drop, because if you are relying on those Sustaining Potions, you're putting this on an extremely long cooldown when it's usually about 15 seconds. So it's one thing to note on that. If you decide to use an antidote, if you decide to use a Spine Drop, that you are sacrificing your potions for that. Gave you the backdrop of the 121 set, and one last thing I'll mention about this set, the community likes to call this Luring City. Luring City because for some reason, this specific floor set gives you a lot of luring traps. Now, it's a little intimidating with that because, you know, if you hit traps, you might see a luring, but kind of as a counter to that, a weird counter to that, is that you may get a lot of Pomander of Sights on this floor. So one thing to kind of note, just in case you're like, wow, there's a lot of sights here. Yeah, you could probably use a lot of them here too as well. Alright, let's start our pulls. Spriggan. Spriggan is the one concern here, in combination with the Bice if we do, because these things do shoot out of combat. So one thing to be careful with them, especially when there's a bunch of them. If you get paralyzed and they start shooting you out of combat, it could be a really bad combo. They are sight aggro, and I'm kind of chilling here to wait for it to kind of shoot at me. There it is. There's that fast boulder. Alright, so we're going to pull one right now. We're going to open with Sleep, as we have been with all the enemies leading up to this point. Can it be slept? It can be slept. Always good to know, especially on Pictomancer, because it's a little bit of a different line when you can sleep something. Terok here is going to be Sight. Probably one of the more calmer enemies to pull here. We're going to check if it sleeps. It does sleep as well. Okay. Just killing it normally right now. Now, we want to be careful about our overall damage here, because, you know, we're still a little bit susceptible to potentially dying, so be careful with your HP. Pop Sustaining Potions as needed. Okay, Spriggan here. I'm going to take care of the Spriggan first. First instance of the Beist here. Now, we talked about those Spine Drops that we have, and we're probably going to use those Spine Drops. So I'm going to pull the Beist. We're also going to go sleep the Beist to see if it's sleepable. And it is sleepable. It's going to open with that Paralyze right out of this gate. There's the Paralyze. I'm going to use the Spine Drop here to get rid of it. Again, you don't have to. Remember, it puts your Sustaining Potion on your bar here, on cooldown, 90-second cooldown. So if you're relying on your Sustaining Potions, may want to avoid the Spine Drop, or recommendation here to take care of the Spriggans so they don't shoot you while paralyzed, which is always a bad combination. Okay, more Spriggans here. Rage! Okay, might use it. More than likely I will use it with a Fortune. Which I will Fortune. I will not do a... Okay, perfect. Actually, this is the perfect situation here. We got the Mimic, we were checking chest, we didn't pop that Rage right away, and we got benefited there because we were able to one-shot that Mimic. So let's keep going here. I may check the other room. Depends if there's a chest here, but I'll avoid it. We'll just go towards the exit right now. There's the Spriggan shooting us. There's a toad trap, although even though I said that there's a lot of loading traps, we didn't quite see the thing. I don't remember where that chest was. Oh, I think that was an alteration. Okay, let's go make sure that I get the rage back, and then we will proceed. I already hit the trap here. Purity. Alright, let's go to the exit. Okay, the next floor. No debuff. Tarok, Intuition. Alright, let's pull the Tarok. Now, we were in this familiar type of room in the last set, where if I hanged around the left side, we actually hit a trap here, so be careful. Adamantoise, it is sight aggro. It does a point blank. Big point blank. It is sleepable. One interesting here, although you never really have to worry about this Adamantoise, when you pull it, it'll do 2 point blanks. It'll do the first point blank, maybe about 15 seconds later, it'll do a second point blank, and then it'll go into a defensive buff it'll give itself. Now, what's interesting about the defensive buff, if I remember correctly, it is a physical defense up, which basically means that as a caster, who cares? Because you'll actually bypass that, because it only blocks physical, but you are magical. It's gonna use it right there, Hardened Shell. Now, if you were looking this at Pictum as a machinist or warrior, you're going to do very minimal damage. That actual mitigation is amazing for the Adamantoise, but it is only physical. So for a magic user, all perfectly fine. But as a Pictomancer, you're probably going to blow that thing up before it even gets to that. But just for the sake of demonstration, plus it was sleepable, I took advantage. Dullahan here is a patrol, and it is a sound patrol. I'm gonna go with sleep here, check if it's sleepable. It is not. It does a conal here. The only thing that's bad about this is that it does do something called Blade of Suffering, which gives it an on drain. So think of like the swarms earlier on 91 plus. It'll give it that ability to kind of drain every time it hits you. But again, you're talking about an enemy that probably doesn't get to that point due to Pictomancer's high damage. Hitting the thing here, it'll get 1 point blank before it's dead. If by now you haven't been convinced about the Pictomancer damage, it is more convincing right there about what it can pull off. Not hitting a lot of enrages on Pictomancer unless you decide to pull something that your burst is not available. Using the flight cuts the amount of enemies I need to get off the floor by half, so if we were required to use 6 kills to get off of the floor, we now need 3. Here I'm going to do Intermediate Witching. I could have opened with a sleep, but I might have gotten that spring in my accident. So we wanted to just kind of focus in and make sure this is pretty safe. We don't have a steal on, so the amount of damage I would possibly take on Pictomancer could be a little bit high, and that's one reason why we did an immediate witching there with the luring trap. Again, I said that the luring traps here can be a little bit of a high frequency, just due to the fact that this set just seems to have high luring trap chances. So that luring trap wasn't a surprise. I just kind of was a little bit lazy with my movement there. Okay, would like that bronze chest because of the possibility of a potsherd, and we've been really getting those potsherds. We are up to 9. We started this floor set with I think 1, and we picked up 8 up until this point. So we are really good in terms of our potion stock right now. Okay, do you want to get that silver chest in that room? And we know where the exit is because it's south of the silver chest. May not be, could be another room, but more than likely it's only one room here. Where's the silver? It's over here. Hold, because of potential landmine traps. And we can go right to the exit. I would say you're starting to slowly feel that kind of squishiness of Pictomancer kind of starting now. You know, especially if you start pulling maybe 2 enemies, etc. And especially because we are a lower armor, you know, some of the damage might be a little higher, it might get a little spooky, so just kind of keep the trigger finger on that sustaining potion if you have a lot of it. But your burst is what's going to carry you on Pictomancer in particular, you know. Generally, you're kind of relying on Pictomancer to, kind of kill stuff before it really gets dangerous. And that's the strength of what Pictomancer is going to give to you on the run. This, I believe, is flighted. So we're going to kind of check a lot of chests here before we actually do a lot of pulls, since we could be out of here in like 2 kills, as low as 2 kills. Fortune came back. Wyver. First instance of a Wyver. It is proximity. It is actually blocking the exit, so we do have to pull it anyway. It does double attack, so it's going to be one where it might be nice to open with a shield. Gonna check if it sleeps. It does. Gonna open with a shield here. It doesn't do any AoEs or anything, but it does do kind of high damage. So one of the concerns you want to have on Pictomancer, especially on the higher floors, you may want to really line up your big burst on that type of enemy. Gonna avoid that Spriggan for now. Okay, Tarok. Gotta pull the Tarok just because it's kind of in the way. I may pop the strength on the next floor. I do really like keeping strength at 2 on Pictomancer specifically, just because of how powerful Pictomancer is. So if you have that strength, keep it at 2, and you'll see you'll melt enemies, you know. Like, I would rather keep it at 2 than kind of preventing like an overcap. Like, if, let's say we get a 4th and a 5th strength, and that 5th one gets wasted, that's one thing that you kind of want to not happen. And actually what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pop the strength as I'm exiting. Why do I do this? It protects us against a no item possibility. So if we get no items on this floor, I have the strength rolling so I can get through the floor without too much of a problem. Blind and no knockback. So the troubling thing here is more the blind. If I haven't mentioned, I don't think I've actually mentioned it on this run so far, but what a no knockback does, aside from the obvious, it does kind of prevent the rage from actually working. So if you try to rage here, and then you try to hit something, you cannot kill anything, because it requires a knockback for it to work. So you do want to be very careful when you do a rage that you don't rage in a no knockback. One thing that I have kind of formulated a habit on now is that before I use a rage, I always look at the map debuff, no matter what it is. Even if I knew that there was nothing in here, I always look at the debuff to make sure that I'm not going to do it in a no knockback. So it might be a good thing to kind of do for your own runs. Minotaurs here are patrols. They are sight aggro. We're going to check if it sleeps. Sleeping now. And it does in fact sleep. What it does here is that it does a point blank, big AoE point blank, not that big. I mean, you'll see, I'll let it go off here. You do want to stay away from it. That actually does a knockback, as we were kind of mentioning no knockback here. It will do a moderate amount of damage, especially on a caster, so you want to be careful not to get clipped by that. And again, you're kind of running into a situation here where, like, you know, Pictomancer does have the amazing burst, so you probably don't run into half of those kind of enrage attacks. Oh, not enrage attacks, I'm sorry. Any of those kind of initial attacks, because you kill it so fast. However, we are in a blinded floor, so there's a possibility you might be missing something, so you want to be careful that enemies actually last a little bit longer than you would like it to. Alright, we're already off. Got the sight yet again. As mentioned, sights are actually going to be pretty high frequency here. Just because this floor, for some reason, kind of leans into that harder. Okay, into 124, going into 125. If I get to the exit here, I'm probably just gonna go to the exit right now. Okay, it's not. I will check the chest. Oh, there's a chance this thing wait, did I safety? I did safety, right? There's a chance this thing turns around and shoots me, which it's trying to do, and it aggroes. But that's perfectly fine, because we are Pictomancer and we have damage. And we have Shengon. Okay, I'm gonna pop that Affluence, because it is at 3. Kind of a good idea to keep it at 2, especially when you're still trying to climb that arm and armor. If you see, we have a little bit of a disparity with our arm and armor, where my armor is a lot lower than my arm. I'm gonna check the chest and then go. I'm not gonna check the next room. Witching. I'm gonna use the Witching in case I aggro here, but we should be okay. Checking my feet in case I get shot at, but we're good. Now we did. You hear it. But it doesn't count. When you're transitioning in between floors, you are invulnerable. So even if stuff like that happens, you don't have to worry about dying and then, like, you know, like loading into the next floor and then seeing a dead body. You don't have to worry about that. Once you've activated the portal and you're mid-transition into the cutscene, mini cutscene if you will, you are invulnerable. Witching Pomander there, which I'll keep just in case we get like a Mimic or something. Another Witching just in case I get another Mimic or something. Although I might use it here? Oh, we'll see. Strength came in good. I might skip that chest because I have to kill 2 things to make that happen. So we'll move our way. This actually is the exit room, which I just recognized now because of the key. Wyver times 2. Okay, so I'm gonna safety here. And then I will actually do the Witching here. So let's Witching now. And then I'll probably pull both of these. Toad and Imp. So we are safety, so we're kind of safe here. We're gonna kind of enjoy Pictomancer's little splash damage here. Kind of distribute it all. That's kind of the power of Pictomancer right there. It's really good on multiple enemies. It's just, you know, you want to make sure that you live through the pool. That's what's important. Does the point blank, so I want to make sure that I'm not going to be in the hitbox when it does it, but it's dead already. Dead end here. I'm going to pull the Minotaur first before we pull our first case of the Basilisk. Alright, keeping away here. I'm not going to use that beam because I'm going to kill him probably in the next She City here. We didn't. Okay, first instance, the Basilisk. Gonna check if it sleeps. It should open with either... I think it opens either with the point blank that it has. It is sleepable. And then it opens with the gaze move. There's the point blank body slam, and then it does have a conal gaze in front of it. You can turn around, or you can get behind it. I recommend just kind of moving away from it when it does it, if it does it. There it is. Okay, let's go. Witching. I believe on the next floor, the floor after that, you're going to start to see the plethora of proximity enemies, and that's where this floor gets a little bit annoying, because you have to prioritize proximity pools, because there could be blocking exits, they could be blocking pathways, and sometimes you end up overkilling, well, killing past the exit, if you will, just because that just is what the situation is, you know, it just can't be helped, so something to note. Okay, Gloom HP down is actually a little spicy, but look, we just got a steal. So we want to be a little careful here. You know, actually what I'm going to do is pop the steal, because things are hitting a little bit harder. I could Serenity here, but I'll pop the steal because we just got it. First case of the Effigy. Effigy is Sight, and it has a long AoE. Almost certain I can't sleep this. You can't. Wild Horn does a knockback and decent damage, but it doesn't do that much damage. One of the better enemies to pull here. Have the Wyvern, which is a priority pull because of the proximity. Have a Patrol coming in, which will probably pull after this one. Didn't set up my motif, but that's perfectly fine. Or the Patrol went somewhere else, which actually indicates that this room has 2 pathways if it didn't come to me directly. Yep, and it is. I'm gonna sneak around this Effigy, because again, it is a Sight aggro. There's the Minotaur. And there's a Minotaur, so 2 Minotaurs coming in. One did not go this way. And I have another strength. I'll pull this one. Just gotta watch my angle here. I have a beam. Oh, that's great. That's fine. We're gonna kill it really fast because of our damage. Yeah, he must have walked into me, but that's fine. Slight aggro. No big deal. But I didn't prep my motif, so that's kind of, you know, whatever. See the damage that we're taking even though we did the steal. First case of a Centaur. Centaur is another one of those annoying enemies. Its proximity doesn't do that much damage. Checking if it sleeps. It does buff itself with an attack bonus. It does sleep. And then followed by point blank. Now the attack bonus is not that spectacular. Even if it gets to hit you with the melee, it won't be that bad at all. So don't worry too much about this enemy. Gonna pop the strength here and probably get the patrol since I have to go in the direction that it's going right now. Pull in the patrol, making sure that I have a pathway running away from it due to its point blank. One more GCD. I think there was another patrol possibly coming. Which it is, and I have no way to hide, so I'm just gonna pull it. The Wyver is also there. May not be a problem, though. Beam. Okay, dead. It actually would aggro if I get this chest, so I may check the other room, the exit room. If this is the exit room, it's not. I will skip that chest then. 2 more rooms here. I'm gonna go behind here. If the exit isn't in this room, then I will kill that Wyver. This is where, again, this is where it's gonna get a little annoying, because you have to start killing things because they're just proximity. So we're gonna pull this one because it is blocking me. I would totally aggro if I go into the exit room right now, so we're gonna respect it. Okay, gonna pop a strength here because it was the free strength. Heading towards the exit now. Donut room, be careful, because again, a high chance of hitting traps even if you're hugging the wall. So you want to make sure that you get through point A to point B without any aggro. Here, have to kill the Centaur because it's literally dead center here. So it has to get fought. The Wyver doesn't seem to be an issue. Oh, it is an issue. Okay, there's 2 Wyvers. I thought there was only 1. Holding. Opening. Okay, Wyver coming in here because it is blocking. In possibility, I actually pull the other one, but maybe not right now. I'm happy about the steal. We're gonna need a steal for the boss also, but this was a good choice. I kind of value Serenities higher than Steel, so if I had to pick one, I would kind of use the Steel over the Serenity. Oh, it dropped something. Aw, I didn't see it drop something. Rip. It's okay. Ripperoonie. Raising? Oh, really good on the raising. Nice little bonus raising there. So now I can feel a little bit more comfortable in some of my pulls. You know, if I had a raising into the HP down Gloom floor, I would have tried to fight that floor without any buff. That's what a raising kind of gives me the comfort on. So something to note there that, like, I don't know, like, maybe you'll feel this way, but raising for sure gives me that kind of comfort level on taking some risks, limit testing, you know, it's like, oh, I died. It gives me, like, a chance to test some things, you know? Whereas I would play totally different if I didn't have the raising on. Pulling this one, this is a priority pull because of the proximity, and it's blocking me from one room. I will have to pull this one in front of me as well. Skatine! First order, this is Skatine. It is an owl. It is sound aggro. It is a patrol. It is unsleepable, but it can sleep us. So that's basically its only existence, is to cast that dumb chirp. The chirp is nasty because it's 15 seconds. Not to mention there's a chance that the owl just tends to forget that it can hit you and you can dodge a lot of its attacks. So it is sound, you can kind of bypass it, never have to really deal with it, but, you know, they are patrols, so they are kind of floating around. Pulling this... Oh, wait. Okay, motifs up. Pulling the Centaur here, because again, it is blocking me from that room in particular. Great aggro, I love that for me. Okay, doing splash damage on the effigy. Again, it's going to do that conal, so we just kind of stay away from it. Good so far. Alright, okay. The Urolith, last enemy I think we haven't talked about. It is proximity. It does do moderate damage because it has some casts. But it's gonna die pretty fast on Pictomancer. So you just kinda have to watch if you're dealing with multiple of them. Gonna check if it sleeps. It does not. Tornado, but it's not that much damage. As a caster, you know, casters means you can't really kite too much, so you just want to be careful with that. Got a potsherd for its trouble, though. That's really nice. Kind of peeked my head out of this room a little bit too quickly, and I didn't see the Basilisk was literally looking at me. But that's okay. And I'm gonna check this floor again, making sure, watching Donut Room, checking for possible traps here. That's blocked. So here, if I were to get this chest, I have to kill both of those Earlets. And, you know, you can if you want to, but I'm just gonna avoid that and just go out of here. 2 potsherds. Look at this. 11. We have 220 potions at our disposal now. We're probably going to redeem these maybe when we step into 141. We should be really good with the 26 that we currently have. There's that corner trap that I talked about earlier in the set, about this room in particular. I tend to hit this corner trap. I think I've hit this one before too. Different trap, but same story. So you have to watch out for that one. So I have to pull this effigy because look, it's looking right at the exit. Now I think I could actually get to the exit. Let me actually do that. Let's just showcase that, right? I might be able to get to this exit while it's even looking at here based on this aggro range, but I'm almost certain that it will aggro due to its range here. So let's just try to sneak in here. Oh, it moved anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But I think we were like right at the edge of that. That's like from experience about just knowing how far that aggro can be. A lot of testing, a lot of just, you know, running into various enemies. But if you're not sure, I mean, kill it. Okay, auto heal disable here is a interesting thing. If you're trying to be conservative on your sustaining potions, this is the type of debuff that is totally against that, because you don't get that HP back healing. So I may have to burn a couple sustaining potions here to get off this floor if I take any damage. But we're gonna use Pictomancer's kind of kiting here at its best, and its damage at its best to kind of mitigate that right now. Skatine floating around. This might aggro on the chests, but that's okay. Got a Lust back, so that's really good. Definitely gonna use that on the boss. Possible trap here in the Donut Room. No go. Exit. And Earlets. So all blocking this chest, so I'm gonna prioritize them right now. Popping a shield here for that tornado. Okay, gonna use a max potion here to heal back up, and we're gonna pull the other Earlet, especially because I have double winged and beam here, so it's gonna die right away. Possible trap on the left side of this room as well. We're good. Sights. Started with 1 sight on this floor, on getting into this floor set, and we made them all back plus extra. Gonna avoid the Skatine and just go to the next room. Checking this chest. Gonna pull this effigy here. Alright, and we're gonna pull the... oh boy. I hit my RP walk just in time. Oh my gosh. Okay, pulling the Earleth here. Would have been both of them on top of me. Goodness. Turn the corner. Boom, there they are. Gonna shield here for extra mitigation. Gonna check the chests. Might be out of this room now. Perfect. Rage! Okay, interesting point here. So the Rage is great, right? It one-shots enemies, but if I were to use it now, this is actually a little bit of a time loss, because if I used it now and I killed everything going forward, I have to actually run back to get the chest and then run towards the exit. So in this case, in the sense of time, you know, I will just go to the exit. Now, you know, if you want points, it's always good to get kills, get the points that way, but in this instance, I am going to totally skip that Rage and just proceed. We want that clear. We're going to form those habits. That's why I'm going to skip that one. Going into the 9th floor leading into here. Palms are pristine. 3 of everything. Can't complain. This boss coming up is one of the more annoying ones. I personally don't like this boss coming up because it just hits you a lot. And it's kind of... And it's very spongy. It just lasts really long. But you're going to actually see us use quite a lot of sustaining potions to get off the floor as well. We are blinded, so we want to give a little extra care. And on top of that, no auto-heal disable. So fights might last a lot longer than we'd like it to, but what can you do, right? Gonna clear up this room here. Again, we're gonna prioritize anything that's proximity. We can probably get away from the Scatine, but I'm actually gonna pull the Scatine just because it's right here. Probably gonna get slept here, no problem. There's another one coming. Okay, I'm gonna pop a potion and kind of hope that potion kind of returns to us. So we're gonna navigate a little bit. Funny enough, you might actually get enough of that potion to come back by the time you have to pull something probably, or you pull something really fast. So we're going to rely on that max potion. There is a lot. This is a treasure room. I accidentally pulled you. That is a treasure room, we can tell, because there is multiple enemies in this room. I am going to cast the sustaining potion here, because this thing's going to hit me a little hard. You can recognize the treasure room by the sheer amount of enemies, plus there are typically 4 chests in the room. I don't really have to handle this room right now, so I'm not going to deal with it. Gonna pull the centaur. Yeah, because it's blocking me from this chest. I'm gonna pull this one. Alright, I don't have to deal with that Earlith, because oh, but we have a Mimic. So, again, our way out of the Mimic right now is that we can do a Witching, which is actually what I'm going to do here. We're going to Witching the Mimic, and as long as we kill it within 30 seconds, we are good to go to avoid that Pox. Reminder, on Pictomancer, we do not have a way to interrupt Pox. There's no way to do it. Either we take the Pox, or we kill it fast enough. Pictomancer has the ability to kill it fast enough, but I gotta tell you, in a blinded floor, I don't have a lot of faith in that. But at 30 seconds, we should be good. Okay, now we can proceed to the floor, to the next room over here. Oh, that's great. Another situation here where... Hold on. Ugh. Another situation here where we were walking along the room, and we didn't quite get the thingy here. Now, this is going to be a little annoying. I'm actually going to pop the steel here. Reason why is because we're going to need to steal on the boss anyway, so I may as well burn it up here. There is double imps. Oh boy. I might re-witching. I'm going to actually re-witching here. The damage is actually pretty high. Okay. As you can see, this is where Pictomancer's kind of squishiness was kind of showcased here. A little bit of its weakness. But we're okay here. I don't have any more witching, and kind of like, it really sucked because I used the witching for the Mimic. But it was a good idea because we had 3 witching. But now we hit the luring trap and it cost me 2 witching there. And then something respawned to just get past that situation. And the blind was just really bad combination. So there's like, you know, for like maybe the first time runner, that's a situation where things can just go downhill so fast. It's just in a blink of an eye, the run can be over right there, right? There's so many things were just getting calculated all at once, but it just be like that sometimes. You just gotta be able to have your answers and react and try to adjust accordingly. Yes, witching, the differences of what the witching gives when you do that does change how much damage you take. So it can change from a frog to a chicken to an imp. A frog will do the least amount of damage, which is very comforting, but a imp will do the most amount of damage. So the damage range you're looking at, let's say it's going to be about 70-80% of its original damage. Now, witching is still good, because if enemies do like really bad telegraphs or AoEs, they're not able to do it in a witching, so at least you don't have to deal with that. But in terms of overall damage, you're still taking the auto attack damage, and they still have the ability to crit as well. So you want to see frogs, you don't want to see imps. And in that situation that we had right there, we had the centaur, which avoided the witching, and we had 2 imps going into it. So it definitely was causing some complications with me surviving. If it was 2 toads, it wouldn't have been a problem at all. I could have just wiped that group without having to do the secondary witching. Okay. I may have to pull the effigy here. I do not. Well, I might. I'm gonna pop a strength here. There's a Scatine behind me. Clear, but I did get the effigy, which is perfectly fine. Oh, that's a mistake. Okay, at least I didn't clip the owl there. Would I prioritize, as a Pictomancer, would I prioritize witching the Mimic and avoiding the Pox, or take the Pox using the Purity later? So, I'll definitely get into how I utilize the purity when I actually use the purity, which we haven't gotten to that situation. But a little bit of a rule of thumb in terms of my decision on witching. I don't want to be at 0 witching. So we are at 0 witching, and that's really, really bad. Now, I am willing to get to 1 witching, but generally I don't actually want to dip below 2. So if I'm sitting at 3 witching, I would totally witching first. Because here's another thought process here. I mean, the cave floors are a little notorious for those dumb traps like the one we just stepped on. So that's one big concern why you'd want to have a witching available to you. That's one thought there, right? Hold on. I actually need to heal here. Because I don't want to open the silver chest and explode here. Okay. Okay, we're good. So if I have 2 witching, I will then go into the purity. But let's say I have 3 purity, 3 witching. Witching will go first. If I have 3 purity, 2 witching, then I do purity. And then it kind of alternates that way. But again, witching I would never want to dip below 0 because I want to have it just in case like things happen on the run. Now you do have sleep. You know, you do want to respect sleep with Pictomancer. So that's one thing to take care of. Let's pull this mob right now before we continue that conversation. We're going to open with Lust on this one. What this guy does here is that he will do a lot of incoming damage. Actually, I didn't pop a potion when I went in here, but it's fine. We'll pop it when I get out. He'll drop 4 puddles, 1 fire, 1 ice, and he's going to alternate between them. After the 4th puddle, he dives into the middle. He does a move called Fear Itself. Fear Itself will give you a Hysteria for 10 seconds, and it can get a little nasty if you're not kind of ready for it. But I will showcase to you what that move actually does on purpose, and then we're going to showcase to you how to properly handle it. So in this case, I'm going to be ready for it, because I'm going to do this, I'm going to do an addle, and I'm going to do my shielding. If we're not in the middle of this boss, we're taking this Hysteria, and we do not have control of my character for 10 seconds, and what's bad about that, sometimes you might run into the AoEs, and that can be really bad. And if you weren't ready for it, you might take a lot of damage that you're not ready to heal back. So in this case, I was ready. I purposely popped the potion, popped my shielding, just so I could demonstrate that. To properly do that, you do want to get in the middle. Here, it's one of those situations where you want to rely on the cast bar, not the animation. Because if you're not in the middle by the time the animation goes, if you're not in the middle by the time the casting goes off, you're going to get hit with the thing, even though this animation is super slow. So I'll demonstrate a little bit of an extreme example with that, where like visually it may look like I'm gonna get hit with the AoE, but not really because the cast had already finished like long ago. So we want to maintain our thing here. Again, this is the one boss where you probably will use a lot of sustaining potions because it does do kind of a lot of upfront damage. Shielding here is going to be actually really nice on Pictomancer because he probably will break it pretty swiftly even with steel on. So incoming, we want to be in the middle here. So watch this. I'm gonna get here. Fear Itself is gonna go. I'm gonna dash out of here. Animation goes off, but we were kind of relying on the casting bar to kind of tell us when the cast was finished. So we were like out of that AoE for so long. He took like a year to actually finish the animation, but it's all based on that casting bar. Gonna look to wrap up this fight over here. Second puddle here. Now again, it is 2 puddles and then a couple melee attacks. After the 2 puddles is definitely a good time to get your motifs up on this fight. But definitely keep an eye on your sustaining potions here, because this is, again, one of the first fights where you're probably going to start chugging them due to the amount of damage that this boss kind of does. Another example, by the way, of us kind of diving out of this Fear Itself super early. So Fear Itself is done, diving out, and there's the animation, but, you know, we're fine. I'm going to try to avoid using another sustaining here, because we're almost done with this boss, and we're being a little conservative. I'm gonna addle at some point. Okay. Gonna watch. I don't want to dip too low here, but we might be okay. I got a burst coming in too. I'm gonna push him. Okay. There's 1 G-City, but there you go. And we get our +1/+1 in arm and armor. 97, 86. And that is 121 to 130. welcome to 131 to 140. And actually what we're going to do now is, because my sustaining potions are now sitting at 16, I'm going to cash in the potsherds that I got from 101 till now. So bear this in mind, okay? Here's our situation. I got 2 potsherds from 50 and 100, from 101 to 100. So what we got a guarantee at 50, got a guarantee at 100. I didn't get anything else. And so we basically had been running with about 60, because we started with 20 potions on floor 1, and then we had 60 from the initial bit. I exchanged one of them, so we got up to about 30, and then now we're down to 16. But we've picked up 10 potsherds from 101 to 130. And so look at our potion stock now, basically farming on the fly, and it's been pretty cool to see that. So and now we're at 236, a much more comfier number here for that potsherd. If you have food, again, we were mentioning this before, anything above 540, so I'm going to be using vegetable soup, as I kind of am preferring the direct hit and determination for Pictomancer. And then top on into 131 plus. Here, you're going to see the changing from the yellow crystals to the white crystals, so it'll look a little bit more appealing, I think, in my opinion. Enemies will get, I would say, still not as bad as 111, but they are going to start to hit you a little bit harder, even more so we're going to definitely rely on Pictomancer's burst moving forward. I'm going to pop this chest. I'm going to another potsherd. I'm going to pop a strength opener here, which I'd like to do, even if we're going to 1. Actually, I'm going to raising here. Why? We're going to demonstrate something on the boss, so we're going to raising here. First instance of the Gourmand, it is considered Ashkin, which is important because there are quite a bit of Ashkin enemies over here. It is Sleepable. It does basically double attacks with beatdown, that's all it does. And it is a patrol proximity. So you want to be careful, those are going to be priority pulls because of that. We have a Deep Palace Soul, which is also Ashkin. It is sound aggro, and it is sleepable. It is not sleepable. It does a point blank, one of the easier enemies to pick on right here. Definitely want to pull these if you see a lot of them. However, they are sound, so you can bypass them, but they're really easy to fight. Popping that free affluence. Checking out silver chests because we do need those upgrades. I'm gonna pass these enemies right now. Don't quite need to pull them yet. Holding. Okay, splash damage on the enemies here, so we're gonna take advantage. And we're gonna get that free kill immediately, especially with Pictomancer's quick burst. So, if you don't know, silver chests, when they explode, they do 70% of your maximum HP, so you never want to be below 70% opening a silver chest. That's why you'll see me kind of hesitate opening them all the time. But it does do splash damage and does do 70% to the enemies as well. Of course, enemies are already out of combat, so they are regenning. Sometimes they might get a little bit of an unlucky regen tick, so they might actually appear that they're at 40% instead of 30%, even though I said 70%, so that's what happens. Ogre is a slight aggro. And it is... wait for it. Sleepable! It'll do a giant AoE heartburn. Easy to dodge, similar to the Ochu previous floors ago. Here we got the Hecdies. They are actually sound, not slight aggro. Even though they have 10 eyes, none of them work. So we are going to try to sleep this one. It does a point blank Hex Eye. It does not sleep. That does a paralyze if you get hit with light damage, but you don't want the paralyze for sure. Again, it is sound aggro. Don't let the name confuse you. It is sound aggro. Demonstrating sound aggro for these souls right here. Checking this chest. If I find another Hecdies, I'll also showcase you the aggro on that one as well. Just so you can see it. Because we can see it, they can't see anything. I'm gonna check this chest because I don't remember what it was. I'm just gonna pull this because I'm lazy. And we have damage. We have damage, so we'll kill him. Resolution! Oh, resolution! Okay. Do we have a deep eye? We have a Hecdie. Actually, that works out. Not a deep eye, I'm sorry. A soul. We do have a soul! Okay, cool. So I get to demonstrate this one. So let me actually kill this Hecdie straight up. Almost capped in our arm, but not the armor. So I'm gonna kill this Hecdie straight up first. Okay, so I mentioned that the souls are Ashkin. They are considered undead. So with the bonus resolution, There can be a situation where this becomes useful, but with a couple of the Ashkin enemies in this floor set, you can take advantage of the resolution. Here it's going to take, usually going to take a double tap to get out of them, but that's an example kind of showcasing that they are Ashkin and that resolution can work. Here we're going to showcase the Hecdice being sound aggro. We're going to walk right in front of him. Look at this, no care, dude. It's like you'd think he'd see us, but those eyes just don't work, so... It's a interesting existence for them, but that's just what it is. Historically, Hecdice have always been sound, in like even FF11, but yeah. Alright, going into this next floor. Purity. I'm gonna keep that in mind in case we see a Mimic, because that'll be my first go-to here. Walking over to this room to see what's over here, because I already found the exit. I'm moving away from the exit to kind of travel and to see where the other stuff is going to give us. Okay, Hecdice. Okay, I'm gonna pull this one because it is slight aggro. Clip the Hecdice, but that's perfectly fine. No real concern with that one. Again, the enemies are not as threatening as they are on the previous floor. Now, as a note here, I didn't really kind of expound upon this, but I did raising here, but I'm only gonna raising here because I will demonstrate something, but I can definitely, and I definitely would suggest, you could totally get off this floor without the raising. It'll make a little bit more sense when we get to the boss. There's the Mimic. I do have a Purity, but none of my bursts. So we were kind of talking about, hey, what's the burst use? Do I use a Witching? Do I use a Purity? Of course, in this case, I don't even have a Witching, so I can't even utilize the Witching, but we're definitely going to use the Purity because we banked it in memory that we ran into one earlier. Now, I would like to kind of get through a lot of this floor. Oh, and a double Mimic! Mimic and a Mimic, totally possible. Okay, we're gonna be careful here. I may need a sustaining potion here. There is an Aramon floating around, so I want to pull that one, but we're gonna do with this one first. Okay, I'm gonna sustaining here, because the damage is a little high. We can survive with a sustaining, no problem. Okay, gonna check the other room. I usually have a little bit of a superstition where if I see a Mimic on the floor, I would want to check at least one more gold chest to make sure that's not a Mimic, so we're gonna actually do that. Slate! Very good. Okay, definitely want to check this room in case we get something useful. I'm also looking for my Witching, and I'm going to Affluence here as well to kind of help me out. Got the Hecdice aggro, but that's okay, we're just gonna blow it the heck up. Gonna RP walk here to get to the chest without the aggro on the Hecdice. Intuition, don't need that. Okay, so there is an Aramon, which I will pull for the sake of demonstration. And since I opened everything, I'm now going to Purity. I opened all the chests already, so we'll Purity. So Purity, okay, now we used our first case of Purity. Now I can discuss our strategy that I use with a Purity. So I have a little bit of a methodology with Purity. If I get a Pox right away, you'll see me do the Purity right away. So I'll counteract the Purity by, I'll counteract the Pox by doing the Purity quick. Now, if I'm sitting at 2 Purity, you'll actually see me rhyme the Pox duration to its full duration. I don't use another Purity. Now, there's 2 reasons why I hold on to 2 Purity for the rest of the run if I'm only sitting at 2. 1, you'll have a situation where if you walk into the boss room with Pox on, it's really bad, especially as a caster. So one of those 2 Purity will be saved in case I get to a boss with Pox on, so at least I always have an answer for that. Second thing is if you get into a transformation, Rage, Lust, and in a Karibu, I would want to have a Purity more cases than not to get rid of the Pox, because otherwise, even though you could regen and use a sustaining potion before you hop into the transformation, if you were to take hits, or if you lasted 30 seconds and the potion's gone, you don't make up that HP back. because the Pox reduces your HP regeneration and also gives you a dot. So it kind of makes it a little bit safer to do a transformation, and I save my other purity for that scenario. So again, if I'm capped on 3, I'm willing to use the purity pretty quickly. Otherwise, I'm going to be sitting on the Pox and riding the Pox until its full duration. Think of it like this. Here's my logic as to why I've decided this strategy in particular. Mimics are sometimes unavoidable. Sometimes you get a lot of mimics on a floor. Let's say you get like 5 mimics on a set of 10 floors. How long is that Pox going to be? So if you're kind of maybe making this assumption that you'll have Pox on for a very, really long time, you just need to make this decision of where is the Pox the worst to have it on. What situation in the entirety of this run is bad to have Pox? 1, having it on the boss. You're not regenning, and your damage is lower. Having it transform, because you don't heal in the transformations. So those are the very 2 important parts that I want to keep a purity for if the situation comes into play, because those situations don't always come into play. I can get away for that sometimes. And then of course, generally having the Pox kind of sucks, but the other situation that you don't want to have it on is a no item floor, because if you're on a no item floor, you can't sustaining potion to heal it back, and that puts you in a big danger. That forces you a Serenity, but you can't predict a no item floor. So you have to kind of think of it like that, that you're going to have to just deal with Pox. You know, Pox sucks, no matter how you look at it, but you just wanna protect yourself against the worst case scenario. No items, yeah. Okay, Mummy is proximity, just like its past versions. Does a quick rotting bandages, and it is not sleepable. Not surprised, but you can predict it alright. Always when you didn't use it. True. You know what? True. I can't even disagree with that comment. Okay, we pulled everything up until now. Hello. Look at these potsherds! Oh, we've picked up 4 on this set! Alright, I'm on here. Oh, I clipped the mummy. Now here, we can sleep the Gubu. So this is where our sleep knowledge is coming handy right now. I mean, the Gubu's basically dead, but I can splash damage the Gubu here. I did potion here to kind of heal myself, but... Alright, mummy here, set up my stuff first. Opening with the pallet here. Gonna cast with the magic here just to take advantage of him being stuck in an animation. Alright, checking the chest. Steel, very good. That's actually really useful here. But we'll continue checking this chest in case anything's good. I will try to get that one. So what I'm looking for here, while I'm taking my time to get these gold chests, I would like to replenish the witching that we burned on the previous floor. Use all 3 of them on one floor. Gonna pop that fortune in case I have to actually get into a forced combat here. Gonna pop the steel on our way out. Okay, let's go. Steel, using it. Hugging these walls to avoid traps if we can. Also keeping an eye in case there's respawns, in case something's blocking our way. If I were to get to that room, I'd have to kill the mummy, so in this case I'm actually going to skip this room, because I don't really need to go there right now. I'd rather... Oh, I'm actually not off the floor, so change that. I'm actually going to do it. Because I still need kills. Now I could clear up the exit, but we'll go it this way. Okay, are we coming up? I'm gonna GCD here. And save the hammer maybe for the pull coming up over here, which I imagine this one kind of aggro's. Yep, not surprised in that one. Gonna angle my beam so I don't clip the ogre by accident or unintentionally. So now this affords me to get to this room because I needed more kills. Gonna pop a max potion here. Okay. Checking chest, checking chest. Intuition, not useful to me right now. Gotta go the other way to avoid the ogre because it is side aggro. Popping my motifs as I forgot. Okay, Aramon. I have not talked about the Aramon. Let's pull the Aramon. Aramon is a caster. And you do want to stay up close with the Aramon, because if you don't stay up close, it'll never use its level 5 Petrify. Level 5 Petrify is a gaze. Is a conal in front. You do not want to turn around. You just want to get behind it or away from it. Now, generally speaking, because you're a caster and Pictomancer, you're probably staying in place for the pulling, but you know, you just want to get rid of it fast enough. Again, watch for that L5 Petrify. And just make sure that you're ready for it and just run behind it. But usually it might die even before it even gets to it. Alright, clean floor here. Getting our first case of the Palace Guard. Actually, I need to pull an Aramon because we did not check if it was sleepable. So we're going to check that for a second. Sleeping the Palace Guard, it does not sleep. As I pull that Aramon, I'm like, I forgot something. I know I forgot something. I didn't sleep it. Okay. Flight, very good. Cuts the amount of the kills I need to get off the next floor by half. I'm gonna get rid of these Gormon because they're gonna obviously go back around because the spawn room is where is the dead end. So I'm just gonna handle these guys right now. Okay, going over here. Curious, can you do... Curious to know... I think that's your thingy there, hold on. Can you do all solo Pictomancer PoTD easily, or is it a bit tough? So, just to kind of put this out there, Palace of the Dead, there's nothing easy about Palace of the Dead. Like, nothing about this run is going to be kind of quote-unquote easy. I mean, there are sections that will feel approachable, feel like you kind of breeze on through, but it still takes, like, you know, a good amount of practice and understanding of the game mode to kind of be able to get the consistency and whatnot. Okay, here's our first case of the Aramon again, which I'm going to try to sleep. We fought it earlier, but I'm going to test if we can sleep it, and the answer is negative, cannot sleep it. But Pictomancer, the best way I can put it is that it is one of many jobs that does a really good job in Deep Dungeon. One of the reasons why we're making this guide is because it has become popularized with the community and with other people trying to take this job in. It's like one of those things, like, I don't really advertise the job tremendously. I'm not like, hey, take this job in, this is the one you want for Necromancer. Like, I'm not going through that kind of that kind of speech, if you will, about the job. But kind of organically, I'm going to use the rage, by the way, kind of organically, people have kind of tried the job, have liked the job, and are sticking with the job. So it does, what Pictomancer can do is that its burst is remarkable. Probably the best burst you're going to see of all the jobs. But it does have that caster squishiness. You do feel like a legit glass cannon. You know, definition of a glass cannon. High damage, low defense. But if you kind of, you know, work to Pictomancer's strength with the bursts, you might be able to get pretty far with Deep Dungeon in general, and kind of keep its weaknesses low. Actually, one of the things we'll do in the higher floors, you're going to see that we're going to kind of be a little patient with our burst. You know, our burst comes in every minute, every 2 minutes, and we're going to really take advantage of that burst phase of Pictomancer to kill quite a lot of things that even some jobs are scared of fighting, especially in the 171 floors, so on and so forth. But I do believe Pictomancer is a really good pick to try to get the Necromancer title to clear this completely solo, and hopefully we put a good display on that other people can look at it and be like, yeah, I think I want to take in this job and try it out myself. Okay, I'm gonna check that other room. Yeah, there's many jobs. I mean, every job has cleared Palace of the Dead. You can kind of talk about a variance of success rates depending on what job you took, but Pictomancer being the new job of Dawntrail, already right out of the gate, it's already showing so much promise for people to try to go for the Necromancer title in this job. Really is a pretty damn good job. By checking chests here. I'm actually at a moderate pace right now. Pulling this one just to get it out. I would like to get this chest. Okay. I may want to back... Oh, actually, let's do this one. Bicato is a patrol site aggro. It will open with a Minify Gaze. If I get hit with this, I'm getting Minified, followed by a Jetura, which is kind of a wombo combo. Jetatura. We're gonna check if it sleeps right now. Does not sleep. So there's your Kato. So, in comparison, Pictomancer versus Summoner. That was kind of the question. In comparison, one of the things that Summoner has that's really nice is that it has constant mobility. It has a lot of mobile damage with a really good burst. I will definitely argue, though, that Pictomancer kind of has the stronger upfront bursts, but the mobility of Summoner can be very appealing. But the Pictomancer burst, especially in, let's say, Palace of the Dead, it's so impressive that it's probably one of the reasons why it might become a popular job for people to try to take in. Because you can definitely kill a lot of things within its burst phase. Got another Potsherd, fantastic. They each have their strengths and weaknesses. You know, could also be a playstyle variance in terms of what you may look forward to. But I definitely would say Pictomancer has the stronger bursts, but Summoner may have the better survival. Of course, you can make this argument on Pictomancer. The thing's dead, you don't need to worry about defense, right? Best defense is a good offense, as they like to say. Okay, moving towards the exit here. This was a lighted floor, so you're not seeing very many enemies on the floor. That's the exit, but it's clear, so I'm just gonna gander at what's over here just in case I can sneak a chest or whatever. So I gotta make up my armor here. My armor's 86, while my arm is capped out, so we do need kind of little help. So you saw here that it was unchanged, we didn't get an upgrade. I mentioned before that the silver chests are guaranteed to upgrade, provided it didn't explode, or that it wasn't hitting the capped one. So that was an arm upgrade, and because the arm's capped, then it didn't give me anything. You know, it's really interesting with our arm and armor today. This is just kind of RNG at its best. We started the run at floor 1 with 58-52. By about floor 100, we had it about equal, and then the armor started to jump ahead of the armor. You know, it just is what it is. What can you do? Okay, here's a really good example here. I'm gonna shield right now. So what the Hawk does is called Rotten Breath. We're also gonna check if it sleeps. 1 second. It does sleep. Okay, so let's talk about the enemy, the Dahak. I don't like pulling the Dahaks. One reason is because of that Rotten Breath. What Rotten Breath does, it's like a plague debuff. It will reduce your healing, but in this case it doesn't matter for healing because we're not actually doing magical healing. But it also reduces your movement speed for a max duration of 30 seconds. So it's really annoying to like move a lot slower for 30 seconds. But what's really cool about Pictomancer is that if you shield right before Rotten Breath goes off, which is about 5 seconds after the pullish, you can block Rotten Breath, and it doesn't actually give you the debuff, and you kind of negate that. It is a site aggro, and as you saw, it can be slept. So there is your thing of the Hawk. Now, if your shield is up, I guess you can pull the Hawks to kind of avoid the thing, but I generally don't like to pull them in general. Deep Palace Monk is a proximity, checking if it sleeps, or if it just breaks my cast, it's fine too. It does not sleep. So what this does is it does a move called Sucker. Sucker will pull me in, and then it'll follow with a point blank. This can be blocked by your shielding. It can be blocked by Surecast. It also can be blocked if the floor is a no knockback disabled, because that is considered a knockback to pull in. So if there's no knockback disabled, you will not get pulled in. Steel, which I'll use on my way out. I think we pulled everything up until now, so we're going to proceed. Might be, actually, I think there's like 1 or 2 more enemies we need to get to, but we're not on the 7th floor yet, so that's fine. We do have the Troubadour, one of the better enemies to fight, although a little tricky on a caster because it will cast Dark, and you kind of run behind it every time you cast Dark and avoid damage. Well, I didn't do it that way, but if you run behind it like this, you can avoid the casting of Dark. But it's a little bit tougher as a caster. So I'm gonna do a sleep here to check if it's sleepable. It is sleepable, which actually works out because we'll deal with the Kato first. I'm gonna leave him slept. It is proximity, so it does become a little bit of a priority pull, because it could be blocking your paths, but it is one of the easier enemies to handle, because that's all it does. It just does Dark. It also gets blown up very, very well by Pictomancer. The mummy is blocking me from a chest, but I currently don't have a burst, so I'm gonna move along. We've been burnt by this floor, by the way, this donut room, so you know, you're a little careful going through this thing. Not much we can do, just gotta get ready in case we hit a trap here. This is a treasure room. Almost doesn't seem like we have that much. We actually got the raising back, which is all I really care about, so I'm gonna pass on that treasure room. Gonna pull the monk here, sorry, the mummy, because I want to get access to the chest. Might be out very soon, so I may not get a couple pulls in this treasure room. Or I may, depends. I want to get that chest first, so we're gonna actually go for the chest now while the Aramon is turned around. Fortune, I'll use it. And I might go to the treasure room to see if I can sneak in a couple kills, maybe sneak in a chest or 2. I do have to watch that Aramon, because it could turn around and get to my direction. Or Rage comes in. Okay, interesting. Let's do a safety, because if I hit a trap in that room, it's going to be bad. And I will just focus in on this treasure room so we can actually get everything in here. So here with the treasure room, you want to be careful with the Rage. You kind of want to inch closer and closer. A little bit of Rage treasure room strategy. And you kind of want to aggro things out and let them come at you so you don't have multiple things coming at you all at once. You kind of want to do like a maximum of 2 enemies at once, if anything. Now, one thing to also note, sometimes the aggro is a little delayed. So you could stand in front of an enemy for a good 3 seconds, and then it aggroes. So you want to, you know, not make that assumption that, like, what do you call it? It's like you're standing in front, it's like, oh, it doesn't aggro, then you inch forward. Sometimes it just takes a little time to happen. I'm gonna sneak into this room to get a kill over here, just because I'll lose the Rage after this. And then we shall proceed into the exit. Okay, let's check what's over here. That was the Rage, so I'm gonna check the treasure room right now. There's quite a lot of chests that dropped. Hopefully no mimics, but we'll see. Alteration, not gonna use it. Fortune, already have it up. Witching, got the Witching back, which is one I was looking for, and a Resolution just in case. Okay, note here, guys, 131 plus. When we entered this floor set, we changed all of our potsherds into potions, which gave us, I believe, 236. We've picked up 6 potsherds on this set alone. Insane amount. Oh, I didn't pick up the Rage. Insane amount here. So again, kind of putting that case out there. You know, we actually had someone kind of ask, I think, no, they were asking about armor. But anyway, if you're concerned about, you know, what amount of sustaining potions should I have on the run, I mean, look, you don't have to have that big of a starting thing. Now, it is RNG. You know, I could not get as lucky as this to see that many potsherds, but I would say more times than not, based on my experience, provided you're checking those bronze chests, you'll get a lot. And by the time you're getting to those harder floors, you're gonna have enough of the stock, and you didn't even have to go out of your way to get them, you know? A really, really solid example of just how much we are picking up on this run. Goodness gracious, we keep missing out on the armor upgrades here, man. Okay, maybe this time we'll get it. Nope. Dang, the armor! Oh my goodness. Okay, pulling this Aramon here. The Aramon, shows up a lot more frequently than like the other patrols. Because all you really have here is the Gormon and the Aramon. So like the Aramon will show up early, kind of vanish for a little bit, but then come back. So that's why you tend to see them often. Just for some reason there's just a lack of variety in terms of the patrols up here. Okay, Monk's dead. I should not get that Monk aggro. I'm gonna keep that steal in mind. I'm gonna kind of hope that the exit might be in this room, so I can actually kind of go there, but we'll see. I do want to get that steal again. It is in here! Oh, that's very convenient! Okay, so I can get that later. And this does a pull-in. If it gets to that point of its rotation, I just want to make sure I can do a Surecast. Actually, I'll demonstrate a Surecast. Surecast here. It does the pull-in. You'll see I dodge the sucker because I have the knockback resistance on. Not a bad idea on Pictomancer because you might cancel the hard cast if you get pulled in as you're doing mid cast. So as you can see, this Dark, as I'm kind of kiting away from it, it doesn't quite hit me because it's more like a melee range kind of thing. And one of the better enemies to fight, just in case it's just like kind of more of a chill pull. Something just respawned. I heard it in my left ear in this room. Got the strength back, great, there's the monk. I'm gonna have to pull this thing because it's blocking me from this room. Audio cues there. I heard it respawn. Just didn't know what it was, but I heard it respawn. This has to go because it is totally blocking me. And then that other monk in front of me is also blocking the chest, so that has to go if I want to get the silver chest, which I would like to get the silver chest. Here we're gonna do an example where I'm going to shield to block this. It should block it, actually. Oh, it doesn't! Okay, not the shield, sorry. I thought the shield would block the knockback, but it does not. So only your Surecast will do it. Or no knockback floor will do it. Here. Okay, I do want to kill this monk because I want to get to that silver chest, kind of priority. Yeah, there's my cast cancel right there. An example of that. Okay. Oh my god, arm again. Woo. We're getting good postures, but we're not getting the RNG in the other direction. I think I can get this clean because that's side aggro. Purity. Don't need it. Alright, to the exit. Have a steal in the north room, so I'm gonna go get that steal in the north room. Something respawned here? Actually, something did respawn here, so I'm gonna fight the monk. I may get the monk with its current position. Oh, I'm totally getting the monk with its current position. Okay, we'll just fight it. It's not a big deal. My time is still very, very good. This is actually something that you may look with Pictomancer that you might be surprised in. I know with my runs, I'm pretty surprised about. The amount of time that you get into the later floors is just kind of remarkable. Like, you feel like you're going at a moderate pace, but really you're killing at such a high speed compared to some of the other jobs, you know? May seem like a low effort type of thing, but it's really pushing some good things here. Alright, going to the next floor straight up. I may consider an Affluence going to the 9th floor. A strategy to consider here is it would be really nice to have a Strength Steal leading into the boss from the 9th floor, and an Affluence could help that. Because you don't want to empty out your Affluences, but we are going to do something on the 140 boss that would kind of help me out if I were to get a Strength and a Steal, so on and so forth. Pulling this as a priority again, because this is a proximity. We have our first case of the Taurus here. So when pull it, sleep it, all that fun stuff. It is a sight aggro. It just does kind of double attacks here. So it would be nice to kind of open with the shielding here. It does sleep. So there you go. So it'll open with that double attack right away. Boom, tri-clip. The Hawk is here. Now, I do feel like I'm gonna get burnt on a trap here, because we've already gotten burned on the trap in the donut room like twice already, but we're gonna walk through this anyway. Okay, pretty good there. Serenity, don't need it. Airmon going that way, checking this room first. I don't have a shield available, so I want to note that. Got my Witching back, very good. It's back at 3, so our Witchings are back in order here. Checking this room. I don't think it's the exit, so I'm actually not gonna deal with that because I don't want to pull the hawk. I have the Aramon going to this opposite room. There's the exit. Okay, so I'll work my way backwards from the exit. So this is one thing that's also good in terms of like, what am I pulling? Where am I going? If you kind of examine the whole room, definitely would be a good idea to start from the exit and then work your way backwards, so that at least the exit room is clear. So when you actually get to the exit, you can just go straight in there. So you should definitely prioritize kills in the exit over anything else. Always make sure it's nice and clear, you know? Gonna pull this first. Oh, I should have done, I can do the fortune. I should have done my motif going in, but I kind of didn't get to it. But I can do a soot here. Got the wing. Okay. Then I'm probably gonna pull this one next. With my subtractive. I can pull the Dahak because I have the shield available. So we're gonna pull a Dahak here. After about 3 seconds, I'm gonna pop the shield. So 1 GCD, 2 GCD, wait for the auto shield here to block the rotten breath coming in. Boom, good. I don't get that disease. That just respawns, so I'll pull that next if I have to pull something. Which I do. Gonna open with the GCD and then the hammer. Alright, leading into the 9th floor. Now we've definitely seen everything on the floor set. Pulled everything, tried to sleep everything. No drop. Ooh, nice respawn. Just right on top of me. A proximity enemy right on top of me. Love that for me. Now, because I'm in the middle of the room, I may want to consider a sure cast here, so I don't kind of get pulled into a trap, but it's gonna die before that. But it would be kind of treacherous to get kind of pulled into a trap location in an area that I wasn't sure if I had to kind of investigated if there is a trap. Okay. I didn't actually alt Affluence. I talked about using an Affluence for the 9th floor, but I kind of just forgot, so it's fine, no big deal. Just kind of hope I maybe get some chests here. Fortune, definitely going to use that one. Let's examine what the rest of the floors are going to give us first. So that's a witching. Gonna hold on to that witching in case we get like a mimic or something. Priority pulls here. Monk is blocking the path to look into the left room, so we pull this one. Troubadour in the middle may not be an issue, although it's kind of close to the exit. But I may be able to skip that enemy just because it's not really kind of, you know, blocking the way I'm going. Here. Aramon first. Moving away from this. So this has been beefy a little bit because of the Gloom. Gonna try to recast the motif here. L5 should be coming out real soon. There it is. And the longer the fight is, that's gonna be the weakness for Pictomancer in my opinion. You do want to end fights pretty quickly, but you know, you can rely on kiting. It's just, you gotta be kind of on par with that kiting. If you're not used to kind of that damage coming in, it can be a little spicy on a caster that has to spend a lot of time actually hard casting, but you take with the good, you take the good with the bad, you know? Another witching. I got 3 witchings on this floor, just in case I wanted to fight something in a witching. Wow. In case we get, like, 4 mimics, I'm ready. I have 3 witchings and 1 purities. We're ready for the mimic. If one shows up. I may... Actually, I have to pull this. This thing is, like, kind of equidistant from the wall to the thingy, so I'm totally gonna aggro this thing. That's a witching ring. Now, witching can totally be used to kind of help you kill things a little bit more reliably. You know, like, okay, just change, like, I'll just use one here. I change this into a Witching, boom. Imp is gonna do more damage. Actually, what kind of sucks about an Imp on a caster is it is capable of actually interrupting you. So one thing to note about an Imp, which really is just annoying. Gonna take that strength here. Perfect. Alright, into the boss we go. Taking that Witching that we used. Go. So, welcome to the 140 boss. Now, one thing we'll do a little special here, which is why I wanted the raising, is we will fight this boss normally, as in no resolution strat, just straight up. If for some reason you don't have a resolution on 140, this is going to demonstrate what to do on this boss if that's the case. Now, one thing to note here, one, you would want to steal, so we're going to re-steal. But two, I will intentionally die when this boss is really low HP, but I'm gonna hope that that's enough evidence to show you that you can actually do this fight like normally. And then after we take the death, after we take an intentional death, I will showcase to you guys the speed run, the speed kill that we do, that we kind of suggest if you have a resolution, which really you should have a resolution by now. But we'll showcase that one and do that as our kill. So let's do this normally. So this boss is going to be pretty much the same as the 140 boss, as the 40 boss earlier, just won't die nearly as fast as that other one. It's going to do 4 eruptions here. Now that puddle is in itself, getting hit with the AoE is not that bad, but being in that puddle is probably going to one-shot you. When I stood in that puddle as a warrior, it almost cleaned me out from 100 to 0. It went from like 100 to like 5%. So do not stand in this. Now, the ads are going to show up here. They are priority. You do not want to get hit. You do not want to keep these ads alive. It's going to be similar to the 120 boss, where they have the prey mechanic, and it will do the final sting if you left the bee alive long enough. So the thing here with the boss is that it's going to do 4 AoEs. 2 circles, 2 lines. And then it's going to run to the middle. If the ads are still alive by the time it runs to the middle, the ads will do an enrage and one-shot you clean. And that is how we're going to die on this. Now in this fight, I'm going to shield. This might have a chance of me blocking Scream. It did not. So if you had a shield strong enough to actually completely negate the damage of Scream, you will not get the Terror. But the Scream actually was enough to break my shield, so I got the Terror anyway. But that's something to note there. Got through the first cycle of this boss, and it is basically rinse and repeat from here. Add priority when the ads show up after the 4 AoEs here. Kill them before the boss does another 4 AoEs, and then kind of move on with your life. So again, we're going to push this boss down to all the way down to maybe about 10%-ish before we take an intentional death. But I think that's going to be enough evidence here to show you that this boss is definitely doable without the resolution. And, you know, it's one of these things now that I'm going to showcase both of these strategies. I'm going to suggest you do one, but you can look at this and be like, you know what, I'll save the resolution, I'll just do it this way. But it will probably cost you the steal, because the damage is kind of high in this boss. Actually, what we can do here is I will dump the steal now on purpose. So you're going to see the amount of damage we take without the steal. This one is going to be pretty painful, so I'm going to shield here. That's right through the shield. We take the second AoE here as the follow-up, which is the Shadow Flare. Again, steal is now currently off. Look at that. Half my HP. So, I mean, again, you can get through. It's possible. It isn't to say it's impossible. If you're looking to really save those resources, then you gotta do what you gotta do. But this is it. So now here, we're going to take that intentional death here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the ads alive. And you're going to see what happens when those ads are actually kept alive here. And also, we're going to showcase the amount of damage the ad does and the boss does in conjunction without that steal off. Without that steal on, sorry. So the ads are out here. I'm going to maintain my sustaining potion at full duration here. Ads are not going to hit you too bad here. Of course, they're kind of, you know, on top of the boss hitting you as well. It's where this can get a little annoying. So now you can see, like, we're actually not gaining HP from the thingy. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of chill here, because the boss is basically almost dead. Gonna repop a potion, gonna pop a max potion. Now watch what happens here. These ads are going to do their thing. I'm going to shield here. So I get prey mechanic. Watch the things. They are casting tornado. Look the amount of damage I'm taking. 99,999. That is a pure enrage if you leave the ads available. So that is what those ads do. That's why they have to die. At least the final sting from the bees, you can survive the final stings, theoretically speaking, because it only does 70% of your HP. But you do not survive the ads doing their thing. So that's the normal way of doing it, you know, without a resolution bonus that we're going to showcase once my weakness goes. But that's one way if you want to handle it, you know, it's not impossible, it's just, that's how you do it. So we're gonna wait for weakness here. Now, let's talk about the strategy for the resolution strat that we commonly use for this boss. This is Ashkin. So resolution does bonus damage to Ashkin, that's why this is going to drop pretty fast. I like to do a strategy that I like to call, we do it by numbers. It's called 3-2-3-2-3. Basically, what that means is that we open the fight with 3 resolutions, and then we have to move because it does its first AoE. After that first movement, we do 2, we move again, we do 3, then we do 2, we do 3. Because of the timing of the AoE, it kind of works out that you kind of alternate that, because it's just the overall time in the GCDs. It just works out as 3-2-3-2-3. Now, for some people, they are not able to get a perfect, I would say that's perfect uptime. They're not able to get 3-2-3-2-3. What a lot of times you'll see people get is like 2-2-2-2, or open with 3 and then 2-2-2-2. So if that's the case, if like you're having trouble kind of keeping that uptime, then you'd want to then focus the ads as they show up. Because if you do like that perfect 3-2-3-2-3, you can totally ignore the ads and kill the boss. So we'll showcase kind of the safer method in terms of making sure in case you don't get that perfect rotation. Here we don't need the steal, so we're going to go without the steal. We're going to pop a potion on the pool, and then we're going to have our shield and then resolution. So I do want the strength. You would really, really want strength here, because otherwise the damage won't be as good. I'm going to pop the strength here. I'm going to potion, then resolution here. So we're going to hop in. Oops, that's not right. So we're gonna go here. I'm gonna predict its movement towards the middle. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. Look at the damage difference that we're doing on the boss. So now we're doing 2 here, and you'll see how tight it is as we make that movement. Holding, moving here. I'm gonna get 3 here. So watch the timing in terms of that third one and how close it is. Sometimes people can pull it off. Sometimes people are a little bit scared about it. No worries. Here we do 2 because we have to. We won't get that third hit in. This is the last AoE. I'm going to do 2 here just for demonstration purposes. Again, if you're going a little slow with those hits, the ads are going to come out right now. The ads will die in 1 hit. So you just hit them once, and then boom, you're good. Hit it once. Ads coming in here. Again, without the steal, it gets a little treacherous. Didn't kill the ad. Gonna be a little concerned here, but we're okay. Probably going to hop out after this hit just so I can heal. Okay. And the boss is basically at 1%. We're going to get a motif up because I forgot. And then boom, we're good. So that's it without steal. If it gets dangerous without steal, just hop on out, get a heal going. No worries, no problem. But you at least get most of that boss dead with the resolution. And then, of course, you already saw the damage that we took without steal, with our shield on, with the scream and the shadow flare, so it's not going to kill you. So if you really have to take that fight a little bit slower, even with the resolution, no big deal. So that's 131 to 140.